I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Back in the throw is Lawrence. Colts bring pressure. Lawrence out of the pocket. Upfield at the 5, veering left, and he's going to scamper in for a touchdown. Lawrence, direct snap. He's going to take off and run and scamper into the end zone for a touchdown. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns today. Motion out to the left side, including Downs, Warren, and Michael Pittman Jr.
They're blitzing.
Rivers throws that way, intercepted. 30, 25, 20-yard line, and being stopped right there is Jerry and Jones. Prevent defense by Jacksonville. They're going to rush 5. Back in the throw is Leonard. Steps away from trouble, throws downfield. It's got enough air on it into the end zone, and it is intercepted by Jacksonville at the eye in Indianapolis in the end zone. 23-17 is the final score, and the Colts losing skid now has reached 6 games.
Guys fought like crazy. I thought our guys battled like crazy. At the end of the day, it wasn't enough, but I thought defense, got some turnovers, some stops, special teams, dueling. We had some big returns, set our offense up, good field position. At the end of the day, we didn't make enough plays. Obviously, there's circumstances that are uncontrollable, some things, but there are controllable things that you can control, and you got to fight and find ways to win tight games, and that's what this league is. We haven't done a good enough job of that, and that starts with me. We got to find ways to win tight games.
Where do we go now? Where do we go?
Matt Taylor yesterday, Colts Radio Network. Rick Venturi's voice you heard as well. And Shane Steichen talking about afterwards the Colts' effort against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then Lafayette, Indiana's Axl Rose asking the question that everyone is asking: where do we go now? Where do we go from here? What happens with the Colts moving forward? Yes, I know there is still a game to be played, but we will get to that and much more over the course of today on this Monday. Good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining. My name is Jake Query. Eddie Garrison, the other voice that you will hear on this program. We call it Query and Company here on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. There's other sports to talk about. Indiana is getting set for the biggest game in the history of their football program, which will be the biggest game that they play in their program until and if they beat Alabama, in which case the next game will be the biggest game. Seems weird to think the Peach Bowl would be bigger than the Rose Bowl, but nonetheless, that's the reality of it. Purdue is in action tonight. The Pacers, there are other sports, but the big story, and the one that we will get to right away, and the one that we will get your reaction to and break down and get you the latest on over the course of today, is that of the Indianapolis Colts. And here's what's the hook to all of this, the curveball to all of this, is the fact that the reality, that was the penultimate game of the season yesterday. It was the home finale, but it was the penultimate game of the season. And penultimate, if you were to look up the definition, means basically whatever it means, first to last or second to last, whatever. In other words, one more after it. But it wasn't. That was the ultimate game of the season. That was the finale of the season. The reality is this, and I hate to break it to the marketing department of the Colts. I hate to break it to the roster of the Colts. I hate to break it to anybody on West 56th Street. This game coming up this Sunday. Yesterday, I watched the end of what was a fabulous game between San Francisco and Chicago. Watched that game, and afterwards, Mike Tirico said, we now can show you the schedule of games for Sunday and what time they're going to come on. And I thought, the thing is, in Indianapolis, no one cares. Now, I shouldn't say that. We care about the game itself. We care about the team. But the result, at this point, we will listen to the broadcast with Matt Taylor and Rick Venturi on this radio station. We'll watch the game out of curiosity of who plays, who's at quarterback, who's held out. But in terms of the result of the game, meaningless. And the Colts have put themselves in that position. So, let's go back to where do we go from here. As I was watching that game yesterday, I realized as I was watching it that I found myself sitting, watching that game. And we have this ability, right? We have this ability in our mind to take ourselves other places. Hell, I do it 3 hours a day on this show half the time. And I appreciate those of you that navigate and wander with me. But as I was sitting there and I'm thinking about and hearing about, and yesterday had fun at the pregame tailgate, the ultimate pregame tailgate at Slippery Noodle, had fun. You know, meeting different people, talking to them, shooting the bull, talking about the Colts and Pacers and everything else. And I'm doing so, and I'm wearing basically jeans and a long sleeve golf shirt. And then today I leave the house, and it's 8 below with wind chill. And is there any greater symbolism of the Colts season than yesterday and today? Yesterday, first half of the season. Today, second half of the season. But as I was sitting there watching that game yesterday, my mind took me to mid-June in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Maybe early June. And my mind wandered to that because I can still vividly and immediately grasp and feel the almost incredulous nature that I had, the disbelief that I had, but at the same time, the starting to understand and grasp feeling that I had of watching Oklahoma City and the Pacers in the NBA Finals. And sitting there watching Game 6 of the NBA Finals, thinking to myself, I can't believe that I'm watching the Indiana Pacers 4 quarters away from winning what I never thought would happen and winning an NBA title. Now, why is this guy, I just turned on the radio, why is this guy talking about the Pacers on a day when everyone's talking about the Colts? Why? I don't understand. What is this guy doing? It took me there because of this.
Do we know that guy knows what he's doing?
No. That's correct, Eddie. Right? None of us at this point. All we know is that it appears as though maybe the Colts don't know what they're doing. But in terms of where we go from here, I was sitting there, and it took me back to Gainbridge Fieldhouse because I was watching that game in Game 6. And as I was watching in that moment, it took me back to February of 2022. Because when the Pacers traded Domas Sabonis, they had come off of 3 seasons where they had been the 4 seed in the East, the 5 seed in the East, and the 9 seed in the East, and playing into that play-in round of the playoffs. They had not been terrible. They were stuck in a neutral. They were stuck in a mediocrity. They were stuck in not the vat of suck, but the vat of average. And it's a tough place to get out of. And the Pacers in February of 2022 traded Domas Sabonis because they had been playing the Sabonis-Turner double big man on the block style of play for 4 years, 3.5 years. And they had tried it and tried it and tried it. And they finally realized if we're going to get ourselves out of this neutrality, we've got to not just move the gearbox, we've got to absolutely grab it, rip it, and tear it and start all over. And the Pacers at that time, when they made that move, the next season, as I've mentioned many, many times before, held like a meet and greet with the media where Rick Carlisle, Kevin Pritchard, they sat there and they basically said, we're going to ask you for patience. And we're going to ask you to ask the fan base for patience because we've made a seismic shift in the way that we're going to play and the identity we have as a franchise. And we don't know if it's going to work. And they said that. They were honest. We don't know if it's going to work. But what we knew was we saw the way we previously existed and how that worked and decided that we needed to make a seismic change in direction. And I was sitting there in Gainbridge Fieldhouse in June thinking to myself, here we are. 3 years later. We thought it was going to be longer than that. 3 years later, this team is 4 quarters away from an NBA title. 4 quarters away because the Pacers didn't wait for everyone else to determine when there was no other alternative. The Pacers didn't wait until the timing was perfect. You all have been in relationships that have been difficult or challenging, that have run its course. and both parties kind of know that maybe it's time to break up or start seeing other people, but you're waiting for the perfect time. Well, we can't break up now because her birthday's coming up. We can't break up now because we're a week from Valentine's Day. I can't do that. We can't break up now because Christmas is coming and I can't do that. We can't break up now because the dog's not feeling well. All of those are valid reasons to be compassionate, don't get me wrong. But my point being, there is never a perfect time when it comes to seismic change. The perfect time is determined by the group that in perfection decides that change needs to come. And for the Indianapolis Colts right now, let me run you down some numbers that were sent to me earlier today. Most people know the Indianapolis Colts were previously the Baltimore Colts, owned by Bob Irsay. And Bob Irsay had bought the Rams franchise and traded them with Carroll Rosenblum, who owned the Baltimore Colts. The Baltimore Colts franchise before Bob Irsay took over was 154-90. That was their record. And then Bob Irsay took over. And Bob Irsay's tenure as the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, the Baltimore/Indianapolis Colts, they were 153, 226, and a tie. 153, 226, and a tie. Bob Irsay passes, Jim Irsay takes over. In Jim Irsay's tenure, better. 257, 194, and 1. Pretty good. But that included Peyton Manning and that included Bill Polian. Bill Polian was a pillar of the organizational direction, of stability, of competence, all of it. Very good at what he did. Having Peyton Manning certainly helped. Without Bill Polian, Jim Irsay's Colts, 111, 101. Not bad. But you know what that breaks down to? Essentially, on average, basically 9-8. 8-8, 8-9. In the 16 team, 9-7. Right? The Irsay ownership in totality, 410 wins, 420 losses, 2 ties. Carly Irsay-Gordon now is a third-generation owner of the Indianapolis Colts, finds herself here. Finds herself looking at a team that potentially is going to go 8-9 or 9-8. And Carly Irsay-Gordon is going to look at it and say, based on the law of average, that is the average record of my family's ownership of the franchise. At times, a lot of very, very good. At times, a lot of very, very bad. But if I'm going to make a seismic change, if I'm going to make a change in direction and ownership, it feels like maybe the timing isn't right. Gosh, we had a quarterback that got injured. We had a big trade we made to go all chips in for a cornerback that was going to be a final piece, and he got injured. Injuries have come into play. The dog doesn't feel well. The quarterback went down, and the Achilles was something we hadn't planned for. Valentine's Day is just a couple weeks away. There's always a reason to prohibit seismic change. But when it comes to making seismic change, there's never the perfect time unless people seeking perfection determine that it's there. And it feels like that time is now. Now, that's not to say it definitively is. You could make a very compelling argument both ways. I get it. People asked me yesterday at the tailgate. People asked me yesterday after the game. People asked me yesterday, basically, it's not like I was like out, bar hopping all night, but when it's the topic for all of you, not just me. This isn't special to me. Any of you. You're walking through the grocery store and you're running into your neighbor you haven't seen in a while. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I watched the Colts game today. What do you think they're going to do? It's the first question people have. What do you think they're going to do? And what I think the Colts should do and what I think the Colts are going to do are two totally different things, and in no way, shape, or form should one really be influenced by the other. It would be disingenuous for me. It would be a discredit to this program or to you folks, the listeners of this program, to dictate my answer on what I think they should do based on what I think they're going to do. And it would be totally unfair of me and ridiculous of me and arrogant of me to think that what they're going to do is going to be based on what I think they should do. However, all of that said, I don't believe that there is overwhelming evidence presented that says that they're going to make a seismic change for a number of different reasons. That can change, of course. And the one curveball to all of this is familiarity or lack thereof. We are not familiar with the thought process of Carly Ursay-Gordon. We don't have precedent to know what her normal operating procedure is, what her perceptions are, what the manner, her management style, her ownership style. We don't know. We can assume that she saw the way that her father operated, and maybe she patterns after that because it's hereditary, and maybe she saw things, as we sometimes do, where you see people above you and mistakes that they make, and you think, if I'm in that position, I'm going to handle that differently. We don't know. And it is well within her right as the owner and her two sisters to do what they feel is best for their family and their franchise. We just don't know what that's going to be. But as of right now, I do understand, again, that word, familiarity. She has familiarity with Chris Ballard. She has familiarity with Shane Steichen. She does not have familiarity with the position in which she finds herself. So maybe for another year, she leans on the comfort of that familiarity. That's possible. But if you were to ask me, which many, many people did, my answer to you would be, I don't think that there is ever a perfect time to make seismic change. But what I thought about yesterday was this. As I was watching the game and Trevor Lawrence was running the football and showing good touch and making good plays on third down, the Colts were hanging in there. They fought like crazy. Shane Steichen said it. Guys fought like crazy. Went out there, we knew we had to fight like crazy. We fought like crazy. They did do that. And I thought to myself, this would only be fitting for this franchise and the way that it is run of late to suddenly now put it together and win a game after they found out, 12 hours after they found out that it was meaningless. Because for the last 5 to 10 years, every decision they've made, every move they've made has always been right after it would have been of importance. They've always been just a day late. And they've always seemingly initially kind of made the wrong decision. We forget Chris Ballard's first big move. Hired Josh McDaniels as head coach. We forget that. Then apparently announced it before getting the guy to sign a contract. Lack of execution got things out of order. And then you end up with Frank Reich, good coach. We know what happened there. The quarterbacking situation. Yes, Andrew Luck retired. I don't know if you folks have heard that or not. It was not good timing, right? Never a perfect time for seismic change unless the person seeking perfection in life is the one going after it. But that put the Colts in a position where they were chasing their tail a little bit. They get a curveball there. They get a pass, I should say, because it's a curveball thrown at them. But then what happens? Kick the can, kick the can, kick the can. And then once it was probably even too late for it to do so, they finally decide on a franchise quarterback, and they go out and they sign Carson Wentz. And they got it wrong. Owner didn't like him. Out the door, back to square one, kick the can again. And as I thought about it, I thought they seemingly were always a day late on their day and option on when to make change. They were reactionary instead of proactive. That's the way they've been. Reactionary instead of proactive. And the time now is for them to be proactive. And that's not a personal indictment on Chris Ballard. I don't know Chris Ballard personally. Talked to him a handful of times, interviewed him, had him on the radio. Thought he was a little smug one time. But I hear a lot of good things he does around the community. I think at his core, he's a good person. And I think he probably knows football. But I think he knows football. There's more to it than just looking at a player in the pull-on Weed Eater Independence Bowl and saying, that guy looks like he might be an NFL player. There's more to it than that. There's developing depth. There's figuring out and anticipating when you need to be prepared for certain things. Making sure that you are proactive and not reactive all the time. And when you talk about fighting like crazy, guys went out and fought like crazy. We knew we had to fight like crazy. I think Greg Doyle pointed out, Shane Steichen used that term like 9 times yesterday in like 7 minutes. Fought like crazy. But you know what is crazy? What is crazy is going about the same thing, being plotted in the same vat of mediocrity, and expecting it to be different. What's crazy is looking at it and saying 410, 420 and 2. Looking at it and saying, for the most part, 8 and 9, 9 and 8 teams. But we're going to be different now by sticking where we are. Domas Sabonis and Miles Turner alongside one another, 4 seed, 5 seed. We're just going to stick with that and continue to rise with what's been working when we've seen repeated evidence of it being stuck in the same vat. That's what would be crazy. And when you look at double-digit seasons, a playoff win, and a roster that's only getting older while now sitting and waiting to find out whether next year your quarterback is going to be the guy that you re-signed who's coming off of an Achilles tendon injury, or the former fifth-round pick that seemingly you've completely turned the page on, or the late-round selection, might have even been undrafted. I can't remember Riley Leonard, whether it was late round or undrafted. Either way, 6th rounder. Thank you, Eddie. 6th-round pick. Or your former 6th-round pick that when it came down to it, you only trusted him to throw a Hail Mary. You trusted, rather, a 44-year-old quarterback because he had been the one taking first-string reps all week in practice, and that's who you game planned with. But let's not forget, that's also the same quarterback that you handed the keys to in a meaningful road game against the number 1 seed in the NFC when he had joined the team for his first practice on a Wednesday afternoon, and you handed him the keys. The game planning and working all week long didn't seem to be a factor then, and you didn't trust a guy that you had selected that's been in your building the entire time. But either way, I have no personal vendetta against Chris Ballard. I have no emotional stake in what I'm saying, other than to say the precedent dictates that waiting for things to change when you have had repeated evidence that you're right there stuck in that vat is not going to work. And so it is my opinion the time is now that you make that change. Now, who do you go out and get that's going to be excited to come in and take over a franchise that has no definitive starting quarterback week 1, no first-round pick for the next 2 years? New ownership? I mean, it's not new ownership, but it is. I don't know. I can't answer that. I would assume that there are people that would be willing. There are only so many jobs as an NFL general manager. There are only so many jobs. And was this year derailed by injury? Sure, it was. You know what I watched last night? I watched the San Francisco 49ers. I watched the San Francisco 49ers who came in here and clinicked and outworked the Colts just before the holidays, and I watched a team that had a backup quarterback that had to sustain and win games for them this year because their starter was hurt. And I watched a team that had a third-string tight end have to be the guy for them for the first month of the season because their other guys were hurt. And I watched a team that over the last 2 years has had other running backs and other players come out and have to make dynamic plays out of the backfield because their signature offensive weapon was hurt. And they overcame those injuries because they had depth and they had preparation. And the Colts did not have those things this year, partially because I think they were just expecting to bring the same thing back and be stuck in that vat. Because it was never a perfect time for change. And here we are on this, the final week of the year, both from calendar and from NFL standpoint, and going into now a game that's kind of interesting because you want to see who's on the field. But in reality, it's the Pocatello Penitentiary game. Yesterday, you saw it, the Giants and the Raiders. Right? Like, what did we do to deserve the Giants and the Raiders on television? And as you were watching that game, the Giants and the Raiders, there is some meaning to the Texans-Colts game. None of it on behalf of the Colts. So maybe there'll be some national interest in what the Texans do. But it is that game. Eddie Garrison, you have been in there in the lab, basically as Dr. Frankenstein, putting together this masterpiece of a show today. Can you let our listeners know what we have lined up for the rest of today's program?
Still waiting to hear back from Don Fisher. I hope he's not already celebrating or just in total prep mode for the Hoosiers game against the Alabama Crimson Tide on Thursday. We have just received word from the powers at Beat from Todd Meyer, Jake Query, that we will have an IU football postseason special right here on the Fan tomorrow night at 7:05. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully we can track down Don and we can talk about that a little bit more. But Mike Chappell at 1 o'clock, he'll join us to talk about the Colts. And then Brian Newbert from Golden Black, Purdue playing their final non-conference game tonight, and he will join us at 2:30.
And again, Indiana getting set to go out to Pasadena, so I certainly understand that there probably is a lot going on for Don Fisher as well. We will continue this conversation, in case we don't talk to Fish, about where the Colts go from here. And I would love to know, I do want to know, and I have a feeling, and I'm not trying to sit here and say I'm going to hand out pitchforks. There might be some of you that believe that Ballard and Steichen, and I do like Shane Steichen. I think Shane Steichen actually shows some flashes of coach, and I think I'm in the minority there. But I'd like to know at 239-1070. You can text or call us, 239-1070. Preferably want to hear from you on what you think. Are you completely out on this? Are you upset, or are you giving it pass because of the injuries? That's the conversation. That's what I want to hear from you folks. And yes, we'll get into a little bit of, speaking of seismic change, college basketball and where it might be headed. That's a conversation that Brian Newbert and I are going to have coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. Chap at 1 o'clock, another quarterback that was just signed by the Colts. What does that mean? We'll get into all of it. Your thoughts as well at 239-1070. Monday edition. Query & Company here, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Butler basketball season is rolling along. Don't miss your chance to get in on the action. Your next chance to get to Hinkle Fieldhouse to cheer on your Butler Bulldogs is Saturday, January 3rd at noon when the Dogs take on the Villanova Wildcats. Come see the sunlight shine through the windows at iconic Hinkle Fieldhouse. With most students home for break, there are some great unique seating options available, so buy your tickets now at butlersports.com/buy tickets. Be a part of Hinkle Magic and make Hinkle your second home this season.
Hey, JV here for WeGrowHairIndy.com. My friend Darren Andrews awaits your call at 317-522-2995 or WeGrowHairIndy.com today. So I have been a We Grow Hair Indy member for the better part of 9 years, and so glad I did because I had that classic Costanza horseshoe design setting in, and frankly, I wanted my real hair back and knew that it was leaving, vacating the premises. But Darren Andrews said, hey, we can help you out here with either multi-unit hair grafting or artist robotic FUE. Whatever you need, we shall do to get your real growing hair back again. That's exactly what happened, and all I did was make that call to Darren Andrews at 317-522-2995, WeGrowHairIndy.com. Don't wait. Do it now. That's 317-522-2995. Be just like me, JMV, and get your free evaluation and get your hair back today. WeGrowHairIndy.com.
Lose weight or stop smoking with hypnosis, guaranteed, or your money back. Only $59.99. Destroy unwanted cravings, late night eating binges, boredom eating, stress eating. Also destroy your desire to smoke without cravings, irritability, or weight gain, or your money back. Hypnosis, January 29th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites States in Noblesville. Weight loss at 5:30 p.m., stop smoking at 8. And January 31st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Weight loss 11 a.m., stop smoking at 2. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes, if you're afraid to open your mail because IRS collection letters could be coming, listen carefully. The IRS is cracking down, taking paychecks, freezing bank accounts, revoking passports. That's a fact. But here's what most people don't know. There are official tax relief programs designed to help struggling taxpayers. Programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief. Optima's award-winning team will fight to protect your paycheck, your passport, and your property. Their tax attorneys and licensed tax professionals will work tirelessly to get you the best deal possible with the IRS. Every day, penalties and interest keep piling up, so don't wait. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
COVID-19 has cast a spotlight on the stark inequalities that drive poverty. The poorest communities in the U.S. and around the world are suffering the most. Oxfam believes we can put systems in place to protect health and livelihoods in the future if we work together with dignity and compassion. Learn how you can help offer safety to the most vulnerable and fight for a more resilient future at oxfamamerica.org. Sponsored by Oxfam America.
Do you own a small business? You need to hear this. A seismic shift is coming. It's time to get super sure. Not kind of sure, not pretty sure, but super sure. Coming soon.
And 107.5 The Fan.
Eddie, I think we've officially moved in. They just gave us parking passes.
Word?
Did you get your parking pass?
Word. I didn't know that.
Now, the parking pass hangs from the rearview mirror, but anymore, doesn't it seem like rearview mirrors are like computerized objects that don't have the big arm that hangs down from them as much anymore? They're like affixed in the windshield, so to speak. You know what I'm talking about?
I do not.
Like my rear view mirror, it doesn't have necessarily the like I think the old school ones had a longer arm that you could hang things from. The one that I have now is more like affixed into the windshield and then it robotically moves as opposed to me moving it manually. Either way, I'll find a way to.
You just have a
adhere
bougie.
That's it.
Rear view mirror, Jake. Is mine. I have to move manually.
By the way, before we get into the phone calls, Ashley, Ike, the rest of you at 239-1070 on the Colts. Did you see my semi-viral experience over the weekend, Eddie, which was totally bizarre?
What was that?
So I was driving, and I realized I had a windshield wiper go foobar while I was driving. And I was on the near east side, and I just happened to be by a large automotive superstore. And so I pulled in, and I was on the phone with someone. And as I was on the phone, I happened to mention, I've got to get windshield. I have no idea, like, what sort of wipers my car takes, whatever else. The employee overheard that, waited till I was off the phone, and then said, "Did you need help with your windshield wipers?" "Yes, I do, actually." So I bought them, and then the employee said, "I have no idea how to put these on." "Yeah, I'm an idiot. Whatever. Laugh at me. Fine." And she said, "Well, I can do that for you." So she goes out, puts it on for me and everything else. But she looked up the model number. Very helpful. And I do this and so when I got the receipt in huge block letters at the top of the receipt, it says store 0193 whatever. And I've done this period. I do it a lot with airlines, whatever else. But I sent a tweet to the company and just said, "Hey, you know what? I was in store 019 and your customer or your employee was very helpful, and you're lucky to have her." And somehow or another, that got fed into the bot farm of robotic replies of, you name it. It became this polarizing, political, racially divisive, whatever else, to the point where then I ended up muting it But the last that I checked, it had, I think, 3.7 million interactions. And none of that are people. I mean, I get it. It's a fascinating observation of like social media in 2025. But I digress. Has nothing to do with the Colts, I realize, but Ashley and Ike, among others, would like to talk about exactly that. We will begin with Ashley. And I believe, Ashley, you are a repeat caller to the program. Is that correct?
What's up? No, I mean, this is the first time I've actually made it through, I think.
Really? So this is... Anyway, breaking news, 36 female listeners now of this program.
Yeah.
Ashley, female listener number 36. We greatly appreciate it. All right, your thoughts.
It's all because you guys that I've actually learned football without having to watch football. So that feels awesome, first of all. Secondly, I had a dream right before Dan Jones was out for the season about my husband throwing a fit and he's throwing stuff around, and he never does that in real life. And I was like, what is your problem? You know, he's like, our quarterback is done. And I was like, so you're going to tear the room up? He's like, it's my shit. I'll do what I want. And I was like, okay. 2 days later, Dan Jones is out for the season. I just tripping out. So I thought that was kind of crazy. And I just feel like maybe there's personal reasons that our backup, whatever quarterback is not playing. You know what I mean?
So you're talking about Anthony Richardson, and you think that Anthony. Now let me ask you this, Ashley. Do you think there's any chance that Anthony Richardson might have called a radio show and inadvertently sworn on the air, and that's why he was penalized?
I don't know. He should if he did.
All right, Ashley. Listen. Now, did you have any other? Let me ask you this. Do you have any other premonition that has happened about either the Colts or people of this radio show?
So far, again, no. But if I do, I will call you back and let you know.
Yeah, we would love to know that. All right, Ashley, first off, and I appreciate the call. Good point on Anthony Richardson. Is there something personal? I don't think it's personal in the form of a personality conflict, but I do believe it just appears as though there is no other. And I get that Anthony Richardson has been hurt. I get it. And I get that I'm not making light of the eye injury in any way, shape, or form. And it is a terribly unfortunate circumstance that led to his year being completed, because I do believe that he is done for the year. They only have one game left. But I also believe that if Shane Steichen, so long as he is the head coach of the Colts, that Shane Steichen has completely turned the page on Anthony Richardson. And not knowing who the general manager is going to be, may well be Chris Ballard. The slippery slope for the Colts moving forward is this. If Daniel Jones is not available at the outset of next season, and he may well be, but if he is not available through camp or in week 1, week 2, week 3, but let's just say the first few weeks of regular season counting games and training camp, if Daniel Jones is not available, the Colts are in a predicament because there are few quarterbacks that they can have steady the ship and handle the wheel for them that would not be messy handoffs. If Anthony Richardson is handling the first string quarterback duties through training camp, through the preseason, and let's say for a game or two, and shows competence and flash, because of his size, his athleticism, his age, and where and how he was acquired, there is going to be a wave of people that believe that should be the guy. And then how do you ask those fans to have faith in it when you hand the keys over from that over to then Daniel Jones or back to Daniel Jones? Riley Leonard. If you have Riley Leonard and he shows a little bit of promise, people are going to say, this guy's young. He could be the next Brock Purdy. Let's continue to see what he's doing. And it becomes kind of messy. That's another predicament they're in. And if Shane Steichen's the head coach or whoever comes in as the head coach, it's one of the landmines that you've got to navigate through wearing clown shoes. And that becomes a challenge. Does that also lend itself towards, therefore, it's going to be more difficult to find a GM or a coach that wants to take on this situation? Ike is up next. I like Ike. What's up, Ike?
How you doing, Jake?
I'm well, thank you.
Yes, my whole take on this is at the NFL level, at any level, you can go all the way back to high school, grade school. The teams that win have good coaches. And that's what it all boils down to. You look at all the coaches that win in the NFL, no matter where they go, they win. Good case in point. Look at New England. Where was that coach at last? He was at Tennessee. He was always in the playoffs. And the minute he leaves, they just fall apart. Then he goes to New England, a team that was a joke last year, and now look at them. So I'm just saying, until we get the right head coach, we're going to just keep spinning our wheels. We're going to keep wondering if it's the quarterback. Is it this? Is it that? But until we get the right head coach, we're not going to win.
Are you and so Ike? Are you and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. So you don't believe that Shane Steichen is that guy?
No way. He's not. He's not the guy. Look at his record. We made the playoffs with him. No. He's a good guy. I'm not knocking the guy as a person. He's great. But as a head coach, he's just not head coach material. And we'll never win with him. We can keep him for 100 years, and we'll never win with him. So that's my take.
My thing is this, Ike. I think you make a good point. Here's the thing. There is some relatability for all of us as to what makes a great head coach in the NFL, or at least a good head coach in the NFL. There's an area that all of you can relate to, which I'll tell you next.
107.5 The Fan and Franciscan Health present Good for the Heart Fridays. Listen to Jake Query every Friday to hear a heartwarming story from our local community. Jake knows firsthand the importance of heart health. Jake and The Fan have teamed up with Franciscan Health to make a difference, one beat at a time. Good for the Heart Fridays, brought to you by Franciscan Health Heart Center. Learn proactive measures to keep your heart healthy and schedule your heart scan at franciscanhealth.org/screening bundles.
Hi, I'm Dustin, your friend and jeweler at Shane Company. I know finding a dream engagement ring can be overwhelming, but don't worry, we got you. As director of diamond sourcing, it's my job to make sure every single diamond at Shane Company is truly the best of the best. Our team travels the world to see diamonds up close, in person. We handpick each one for its unique fire, brilliance, and scintillation. Diamond buying is an art. Of course, we look at cut, color, clarity, and carat, known as the 4 C's, but that's not all. We also look at how each diamond looks on a hand, where it will be worn, how it makes you feel, and if it's worthy of a Shane Company customer. That type of expertise only comes from working for a company that's been a family business since 1929. We also think about your budget. We only pick the best in each grade in all shapes and sizes. Your diamond is guaranteed to be the most beautiful because a friend wants you to pick from only the best. Drop by your store or shaneco.com and see for yourself. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
Food insecurity is an urgent problem, one that impacts real Hoosiers. You can help today. Gleaners needs donations. Your contribution goes further with Gleaners. For every $10 you give, Gleaners leverages their resources to turn your $10 into $90 worth of groceries for families who desperately need help right now. Your gift benefits local community members, and every dollar counts. Gleaners also needs volunteers now to help with warehouse distribution. Go to gleaners.org and donate or get involved today.
Hey there, Jake Query for Game Day Men's Health. You know what? Brand new year, New Year's resolutions, right? All of you. Guys, I hear it. And it's not always easy at our age. You want to get back in shape, and you hear about all kinds of different programs out there. What about a locally owned and operated right here in Indianapolis program? Beginning in 2026, it's going to help you define a new era in men's health. You can get stronger, healthier, and take care of your well-being with Game Day Men's Health. And unlike other testosterone purchases with no oversight, no quality guarantee, no way to verify the source, Game Day Men's Health is fully regulated, a fully regulated clinic monitored by 2 federal agencies. All prescriptions come from FDA-approved pharmacies, ensuring safety and the highest standard of care. Game Day Men's Health has an in-house laboratory. You can get in, get treated, and get back to your best life starting in 2026. I love it as well because Game Day Men's Health in Indianapolis, right there, and Indianapolis Motor Speedway lined up. Now, they're not affiliated with them, but I'm just saying they're fans of racing, and I love that as well inside the studio. It makes me feel at home when I go inside Game Day Men's Health. But make sure that you are getting your engine running and running smoothly in 2026. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com to find your nearest clinic and schedule your free consultation and testosterone test today. Again, GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes, if you're afraid to open your mail because IRS collection letters could be coming, listen carefully. The IRS is cracking down, taking paychecks, freezing bank accounts, revoking passports. That's a fact. But here's what most people don't know. There are official tax relief programs designed to help struggling taxpayers. Programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief. Optima's award-winning team will fight to protect your paycheck, your passport, and your property. Their tax attorneys and licensed tax professionals will work tirelessly to get you the best deal possible with the IRS. Every day, penalties and interest keep piling up, so don't wait. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
It's a new season with a new QB.
Football is back.
And so are Bud Light Blue Fridays. Every week, join JMV starting at 3 for ice-cold Bud Light specials, football talk, and chances for you to snag tickets to Colts games and get some amazing swag on us. And get in on the football toss for a chance to win a trip to Las Vegas for your shot at Super Bowl tickets. This Friday, join JMV at Ralston's Draft House on Mass Ave. Bud Light Blue Fridays.
Heat and cool places where ductwork won't fit using Mitsubishi electric ductless mini splits. You can even wrap them to match your decor.
Find out more at absolutecomfort.org.
Hey, JMV, later on this afternoon at 3, Jaguars Colts recap the weekend of sports and prepping for a new year. Don't miss a second today at 3.
Work it, make it, do it. Makes us harder, better, faster, stronger.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Great point from Mike. 239-1070 telephone number. Mike Chappell coming up 15 minutes or so from now. The Colts have signed a new quarterback to the practice squad. Interesting this time of year because then you wonder, wait a minute, is this like an emergency quarterback in case they are making a change? Doesn't it feel that way, Eddie?
Is it? Is that the new backup for Sunday?
Seth Hennigan has been signed to the practice squad. You wonder.
Can you name where Seth Hennigan went to college?
Excellent. My favorite game, as you know. Are you looking at it right now?
I knew because they worked him out a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Is it a Power 5 conference?
I got to remember what conference they're in first and foremost now. Sure.
Okay. Is it a – give me the bowl game that you would guesstimate that he would have played in during his college years. What's a typical bowl for this team?
Not a Power 5. Not a Power 5 conference.
Okay. Then secondly and lastly, I'll go with Nevada.
No. They're a basketball school.
A basketball school.
They're currently known for their basketball more than football.
Okay.
They have a former pro as their head coach.
Memphis.
That would be correct.
Okay. No matter what line of work you're in, Eddie, give me a profession off the top of your head.
Plumber.
So people would say to a plumber, I know I could call the plumber, but I do it myself. I watched a YouTube video on, how hard is it? You get two pipes, you put them together, you get the little round thing that goes in there, screw it together, there you go. Fix my plumbing problem.
Well, don't forget you need the plumber's tape as well.
Well, and the plumber's crack. And then people at that point, though, they get into the job, and then what happens? You ended up with a flooded basement, parts all over the place, and you're like, I guess I do need to call the plumber. Because there's more to it than just putting together two pipes. There's more to it than that. In this job, and I'm not saying that I'm good at it. I'm not. I don't know that. Honestly, But I understand and I respect and I appreciate that people will say to me on a fairly regular basis, I could do your job. I love sports. I probably know more about sports than the guy I hear talking about it on the radio. I totally understand. There are people listening to my voice right now that know far more about, like they knew right off the top of their head. They knew it, that the Colts under Jim Irsay were 257, 194, and 1. They knew it. They didn't have to look it up. There are people that know all of those things, and I totally understand it. And yesterday when I was doing the tailgate, as a matter of fact, 2 people this weekend. Greg yesterday at the tailgate, great dude. Jim, who I met at dinner on Saturday night, both of them pointed out something to me, and for both of them I said, I truly appreciate you saying that, because they said, man, I can't imagine having to talk for 3 hours.
Without me?
Without you, Eddie.
They brought me up?
Well, hell, you've been gone for 3 weeks.
So?
One guy did say, is Eddie's head really that big? And I said, well, it is. And then he said, well, tell him he did a good job with the fairground lights. And I said, well, I'll let him know.
Thank you.
But there is so much more to this job than just talking about sports, because you have to know what time to take the breaks. You've got to be able to talk with people talking in your ear. You've got to be able to, there are other factors that go in. I'm not saying that we get some sort of an award for it. It's what we do for a living. But there is a lot more to it than just talking. And that's true of all of you in any job that you do. And I think for an NFL head coach, we say to ourselves, I could do that, or other guys could do that, because how hard can it be if you just simply know the game? I'm sitting on my couch, and I can't believe that he didn't realize that he had an extra timeout to burn, or he should have in that situation challenged that play. And I'm not saying Shane Steichen specifically. I'm just saying generically. But I think that there's a lot more to being a head coach in any sport above and beyond simply the X's and O's and the preparation. I've always thought Nick Saban and John Calipari, I've always felt like the brilliance of those 2 guys as coaches is above and beyond the X's and O's. Brad Stevens is a fabulous X's and O's guy. Those Butler teams knew where loose balls were going before the loose ball even touched the rim. But Brad Stevens also, I remember once years ago, I was at a Butler game. I was working for Channel 6, and I was just having a casual conversation with Brad Stevens, who at that time was not even the head coach. He was like an assistant. He was an assistant at Butler. And he asked what high school games I'd been to recently, and I mentioned a player that I had seen play in a high school game from a smaller town in northern Indiana that I was really impressed by. And he said, well, what about you impressed you? What about him impressed you, I should say? And I said, he just had this knack for, and I'm listing the things on the court. And Brad Stevens said, did you happen to watch how he interacted when he wasn't on the floor? And I said, no. And he said, I'm just curious whether or not you think he could have been a good Butler Bulldog, but I want to know how he interacted when he wasn't on the floor. Because there's more to being a great player than just the X's and O's. But Brad Stevens, who at that time was a relatively unknown assistant coach, saying that to me, it like popped a light bulb in my head of, gosh, this guy's an assistant coach at a Horizon League program, and he's going that in-depth an analysis of a player beyond the X's and O's and trying to figure out the personality of a player and the makeup of a player. And that moment was an epiphany for me of how much coaching is above and beyond what we just simply think is the job itself. How much of coaching, and I'm not saying Ike's wrong. Ike's probably right. I'm saying this in support of what Ike was saying as the caller. So much of coaching is knowing when to go to the commercial break, knowing how to talk with people talking in your ear, knowing how to navigate through when there's an engineering issue and people are stepping over you to connect wires, and you've got to make sure that nobody else knows what's going on the camera or off the camera or whatever else. There are so many aspects of the job. So much of coaching is knowing above and beyond. It's knowing the right pipe that is able to work in different atmospheres or different climates, cultures, whatever it may be, whatever goes into plumbing, right? And I think that meshing personality, understanding cohesiveness of the intertwine of people of different backgrounds in a locker room, and getting guys to respond and buy into a belief or a where you're going or overcoming adversity, all of those things are such important factors to being a head coach, no matter what level you're talking about. And seeing how pieces work together and seeing how combinations come together. And sometimes that's learned on the job. Plumbers have apprentices because you got to learn some of that stuff on the job. And I think we have seen coaches in this town that we can say we saw them learn on the job. Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle is on the cusp of winning his 1,000th game. The Pacers have been waiting for it for a while now because I think they have some stuff planned for him. But Rick Carlisle is on the cusp of winning his 1,000th game. 1,000 games in the NBA. Rick Carlisle at one time was a coach that was in Indiana, and they bypassed Rick Carlisle to hire Isaiah Thomas because at that time they didn't feel like Rick Carlisle, that it was in the best circumstance and situation for him to learn, even though he'd been the apprentice, because there were still things that he needed to learn. And so he went to Detroit, then he came back here. He learned those things and went on to become a championship-level coach and one of the great coaches in the history of the game. But you can see sometimes coaches grow before your eyes where you go, you know what, now that guy is a pretty darn good coach, but wasn't necessarily in the beginning perhaps. And I think that Shane Steichen has shown some improvement. But, Eddie, the point is he may still be, maybe he is, in fact, an O coordinator. Maybe that's his thing because he knows offenses, and I think that he is laser-focused on the X's and O's of the inner workings of play scheming, but maybe he is still learning the other stuff of knowing how a guy performs when he's not on the floor or the field. And the other such personality meshing that goes into it.
I think the other part of it, too, is like if you look at the teams that are for Ike pointed, I think it was Ike pointed out earlier, just like New England, Chicago, the teams, for that matter, Indiana, IU football. If you look at these teams and how they've turned around, all of these coaches demand things. They're very demanding with how you prepare, with how you practice, with how you play, the fine details in every single thing. And I just don't know if that's in Shane Steichen. Like he seems like he's a nice guy, but he just doesn't have the little bit of a-hole in him that you need in order to be a head coach in the NFL.
Yet. And that's I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying maybe the answer to that is yet. Again, that's one of the things the Colts have to assess. Mike Chappell covers the Colts. Dean of it joins us next.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Your home for Indy sports. Now with even more ways to listen.
Listen on air.
Online at 1075thefan.com.
And on our free app.
Stay connected to all things Indy sports, including the latest news, show blogs, and catch up on what you've missed with our podcast.
We're never more than just a click away.
Download our app at Google Play and on the App Store. From your home for Indy sports.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
JMV here for my friends at Premier Weight Loss. You know what's funny? When I was in my teens, body exploration meant something completely different than it does now that I'm 56 years of age. I can say now that it means, where am I on my weight loss journey? Down nearly 80 pounds. How about my body fat percentage? Down from 35% to 13%. Now it's time to add muscle mass, or lean mass, if you will, with the tone stimulation machine that they have at Premier Weight Loss. You can do the same weight loss journey and then tone up with Thomas and Samantha and the gang at Premier Weight Loss. It will work for you. That's PWLND.com. Mention my name. For the first 10 days in the month of December, you could win 2 lower-level tickets to see the Niners and the Colts. If you want to lose the weight, if you want to feel better, it's PWLND.com. You can do it. Tell them JMV sent you. PWLND.com today.
Baseball great Lou Gehrig was known as the Iron Horse for playing 2,130 consecutive games. But it was his reaction to his greatest challenge, the fatal diagnosis of ALS, that made Gehrig a household name and a beacon of strength for all those facing the disease. The Live Like Lou Foundation honors Lou's legacy and inspires hope for a world where ALS is no longer fatal. Donate or volunteer today at livelikeLou.org.
It's JMV for Indiana's Best. My friend Eric Wilson and Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st and State Road 37. It's in Fishers. Check it out right now. The GMC Acadia, good for you, the family, and the friends of the family. Inventory. Car buying experience, service after the sale, the absolute best. It's one-stop shopping. Ask for Eric Wilson and head to Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st and State Road 37 in Fishers.
When it comes to restoring your hair and your confidence, picking the right team makes all the difference. And at We Grow Hair Indy, some of the biggest names in sports, radio, entertainment, trust them with their hair restoration. We're talking Olympians, former NFL players, maybe even a radio host or two. They all chose We Grow Hair Indy because the results speak for themselves. And I've talked with people that have had it out of state, out of the country, and oh boy, some of their endorsements, not the most glowing, but I can be glowing about We Grow Hair Indy. They are excellent. I was a little hesitant at first walking into the building, but they are very reassuring. The education I got from Darren Andrews and his staff made my decision for me. And then I went ahead with the Artist Robotic FUE hair procedure. And from your first visit, I think you're going to know why. We Grow Hair Indy's technology is unmatched, and their team has decades of experience and proven results you can actually see. So if you're ready, take control of your hair loss, choose the right team, and schedule your free in-person or virtual evaluation today. That's WeGrowHairIndy.com or call 317-522-2995.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner.
Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your boat, boat wins.
What are you going to do? Take the boat out for a spin or go mail something? Boat wins! Are we cleaning the patio or taking the boat out fishing? Boat wins! Are we skipping that eye exam to go sailing? Boat wins!
Rescheduling eye exams can be a nightmare.
All right, fine. Eye exam, then boat.
Yeah!
With Progressive, you can bundle your boat with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings on your boat. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states and situations.
From the DriveHubler.com studios, this is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BP, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
The top-ranked Hoosiers face the Crimson Tide of Alabama in the Rose Bowl. New Year's Day at 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Here come old flat top, he come grooving up slowly. Got juju eyeball, he won.
This is Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So Colts yesterday on the short end of it with the Jacksonville Jaguars. By the way, Eddie, and I'm not saying this in a, hey, you were wrong, I was right, whatever. I'm genuinely asking. Because it does feel like, and maybe there's a little bit of a Sam Darnold question hanging in the balance type factor to this. But Trevor Lawrence is one quarterback that you and I have discussed a lot because, you know, I had so much expectation as to who he could be because I watched him in college and his pedigree and resume and all of that. And obviously it has been very rough sledding in Jacksonville, and you were pretty down on him. It seems as though now that he is healthy, they've gotten some stability around him. He has kind of taken a step into, at the very least, some consistency. do you still think of him as, because like Sam Darnold, I think has had a wonderful year in Seattle, but I don't know when the game's on the line in an NFC title game, whatever, that I trust Sam Darnold.
Right, because we haven't seen Sam Darnold do that yet.
So where do you think Trevor Lawrence is at this point after yesterday?
I think I told you last week that I've started to shift my thinking a little bit with how I view Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, just because of the way that Liam Cohen has been able to turn things around by demanding certain things, and he actually coaches them hard to get the best out of his team, and that has really, really resurrected Trevor Lawrence's career. And the other part too is I have to give Liam Cohen a lot of credit, is he finally realized where Trevor's strengths are. It's you run the football and you get him on these bootlegs, and he is very accurate on the run, and he has an understanding now of where the football needs to go. They changed things, as J.P. Shadrick said earlier in the season. They were going from him calling all the plays into his headset, into the huddle. He'd have to relay it to the guys, and then instead, like, hey, can we just go to a wristband? And now they simplify things that way. And that Jacksonville offense, now that they've added Jacoby Myers, has been a problem. And the one thing I think people haven't really talked about with Jacksonville lately is they don't have Travis Hunter out there, and like, how's that going to look next year?
Right.
And they've gotten a lot of really good games and reps out of Parker Washington lately. Brian Thomas Jr. is still a factor.
Well,
Travis
Washington was
Etienne,
huge yesterday, no question about it.
He's been over 100 yards in each of the last two games now.
It's funny, the two best teams in the AFC might be the two that nobody's talking about right now, New England and Jacksonville, at least in terms of where they are now. But Mike Chappell joins us. Java House Peel and Pour guest line. JavaHouse.com is the website. Jake25 is how you can get 25% off the bundles for the Peel and Pour pods. Chap, I'll begin with this before we get into talking about maybe some of the rest of the AFC. The Colts do have a game left. We know that. Seemingly meaningless in terms of what it means for their, postseason. That's done. Where do the Colts go from here, Chap, in your opinion? I guess I'll begin with, where do you think they will go? What do you think Carly Ursay-Gordon ends up doing?
Wow, if I had to put your salary on the bet, let me see. There's three options, right? It's you bring them back, everybody, you blow it up, and you bring it back with probably getting rid of moving on from Chris Ballard. Those are the three primary options. You could bring back Chris and get rid of Shane Steichen, which would make no sense to me, because I think Steichen's proven pretty good when you give him stability, even with a marginal quarterback. I tell you, Shane Steichen getting Gardner Minshew a $15 million free agent contract from the Raiders is monster. I mean, right. One play away from that. So, yeah, boy, maybe we've talked on this. Maybe it's just been us guys in the media room. My gut says, and I'll duck when I say this, that they're going to bring it back. She'll bring it back. This is the argument I'll make, and then I'll change my mind. But I think Carly's going to sit there and say, when we were 7-1 and 8-2, we were pretty damn good. I mean, we were good. And I don't want to hear this garbage on the social media that, they were regressing before this. No, they were regressing. They regressed when Daniel Jones broke his leg. He played 2 games with a broken leg. Fractured, yes. Fracture, break. It's a broken leg. And then the Achilles. And that was compounded monstrally by Anthony Richardson not being available because of his freak injury. I'm convinced if that injury doesn't happen, they're in the playoffs, because Richardson would have done enough, and they wouldn't have bothered Phillip Rivers out of retirement. So and what I can't get out of my mind too is that I believe she was pretty much behind. Not pretty, but I think she was behind most of the things that Chris did in the off season. The big contracts for Ward and Bynum and Jones. Not so much Jones, but then certainly the giving up 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner told me that they were locked in on this roster now, not just for this year, but for the next few years. And that meant investing something in the offseason in bringing Daniel Jones back, which in my mind they still will. Now the dynamics have changed, but I just think that the moves that have been made, and I understand the fan base is done they are so over 9 years of 2 playoffs and 1 win, and I understand it, and I can't talk you off of that ledge at all. But I just think to reset now would be difficult, because the year to reset is in 2026, when most of the guys, a lot of the really major players, their contracts are up. You know, Buck, although who knows if he comes back from this herniated disc surgery, Jonathan Taylor, Pittman, Quentin, and on and on. And that's when it seems like is when, if you're going to blow it up, that's when you do it. So, and could they fire Chris Ballard and bring in a GM and say, by the way, here's your head coach and your quarterback? Yes. I don't think that works very often. It didn't work with Chris and Chuck Pagano, although they're different scenarios. So I can hear her sit up there if and when she talks, and she will be as rational and as objective as she can be, and you'll either buy into what she's saying or you won't. And I understand people that won't. I just think this is one of those squirrely years where, again, Chris Ballard did so many things that a lot of us have been saying, hey, why don't you deviate and do this? And he gives that the 2 biggest free agent contracts of his tenure. And the Sauce Gardner trade was, I mean, that told you they thought this team was poised to do something special. And then your quarterback gets hurt, and then the backup quarterback was already hurt. So very few teams can overcome. I understand the Niners did this, that, and the other, but keep in mind the Niners, when Brock Purdy got hurt, they had Mac Jones. So that's what I was saying is if when Daniel Jones gets hurt, they've got AR, then we're probably not having this discussion. So
that's fair. Let me ask you this, Chap.
Go ahead.
Do you have siblings?
Yes.
Are you? They're older or younger than you?
A little older, about a year older.
Okay. The reason I ask, for example, when I went to high school, big jump to go from middle school to high school, especially a big school like North Central, right? You're going to get lost in the hallways, and, your freshmen get put in lockers, whatever. And I had an older sister who was a senior, and I had a cousin that was a junior. And there was a comfort for me knowing that I was getting ready to go into a new venture, into a new building. We all have that comfort in like the older brother or the older sibling that can kind of just look after us. Do you think that there's the possibility that Carly Ursay-Gordon going into this knowing, yes, I realize that she's had a full season as the primary owner here, but as she's really going into her first full off season of decisions and moves, may she actually see Chris Ballard is kind of the big brother of the comfort, familiarity, and a world otherwise unfamiliar that she can kind of lean on here for another year or so, and that will buy him time?
I guess, but again, that's going to be and you're going to have, again, she's going to have to understand that she will be shouting at the masses who won't be listening to her. But that's why, and I don't, while I think she understands that, she won't be driven by the fan base. She can't be. She can't be swayed by, 25% of the fan base, well, baloney. That's what we're hearing now, and I understand it, is the very, very loud minority, and it's not a small minority that's fed up with what's gone on here. It's middle ground. They're going to win 8 or 9 games again for the third straight year under Steichen. So yes, there's that comfort level, but that's a dangerous thing to do too, is to say, well, I'm going to lean on Chris's expertise.
No, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying.
Right. Oh, yeah, I guess. But she's the one thing that people need to understand, and I know I'm not wrong in this. This is not the first year she's had the heavy hand in guiding this team. It's not. Jim wasn't in the best of health the last couple of years. She's taken on a much, much stronger role. Now, Jim always had, veto power because it's his team. But I think the last couple of years, I'm going to go too much farther than 2 years. She's had a heavy hand in things. And that's why when people say, well, I wonder what her relationship's going to be with Ballard now, it's been tight. She's trusted him. She's believed in him. It's just going to be, does she believe that he no longer can do the rebuilding of what he's had a hand in not getting done? That's the thing. And when people shout that 9 years is enough, yes, it is. Yes, it is. But just to say he's done nothing is wrong. I'm on board that he's not been able to get a pass rusher. He hasn't, despite a lot of investment, draft capital. I would argue his best pass rushers have been free agents in Ngakoue and Justin Houston, Denico Autry. So I just, and the quarterback thing is something that, yes, they get over the shock after a year or two of luck, and then doggone it, get it fixed. And they haven't, although it looked like they did until Jones got hurt, because I'm telling you, they were pretty good. Now, we could argue the defense, this, that, and the other, but they were getting their defense together. And, oh, by the way, Mooney Ward misses 10 games with 3 concussions. I mean, you can't prepare for that. You lose Buckner, who is in my mind, their most indispensable defensive player. If you told me this past game I could have Buckner or Sauce Gardner, I'd take Buckner. As good as Sauce Gardner is. But that's why I say it's been. But the problem is they've used up their benefit of the doubts. That's the problem. The fan base is as it should be, frustrated and has lost tolerance. But all I'm saying is be careful what you wish for. If you wish for her to nuke this place, then it's going to be dark for 3 or 4 years. It just is.
But it already is kind of dark for 3 or 4 years, isn't it?
It's not dark, it's dim. Dark is the Jets. And
no,
we can
I get
argue
it.
We can argue whether it's better
but keep
to be
in mind,
8,
the
9.
Jets have 4 first-round picks the next 2 years. The Colts have none.
Yeah, and not that I try. You're right. Cleveland's had a bunch of first-round picks over the years, and what have they done? Yeah, we're arguing margins now. Is it better to be 8 and 9 or 3 and 14?
Right.
Well, I mean, you're in the same spot.
Right.
Yeah, one's just a little bit deeper on.
You're passing the popcorn to each other for the first round, right? Yeah.
Right. So, but no, this is going to be important, and I hope whatever she does, even if that includes nothing, if it's one more time, I hope she addresses it. I don't know if she will or not. Sometimes, if you're not going to make a change, why would you say you're not going to make a change? I think Jim Irsay put out that missive last year on Sunday night that I need to go back and look exactly what it said, but that, hey, we're rolling it back. I hope she does, because I think the fan base needs to hear from her on why. And of course, if there is a change, I'm sure she will address the fan base, because this is her team now. Her and her sisters. I don't want to dismiss Kayla and Casey, but Carly's the one that's driving the bus on the team moves. So I think I'd go as far as say she owes it to the team, to the fan base, to say this is what we're doing and this is why. This is my vision of moving forward, and understanding that a lot of people aren't going to be listening to you, because as soon as you say we're bringing them back, they're going to say, well, screw you, I'm done. And they'll be done until they start winning more, in December when it matters. So it's going to be fascinating what she does. I could have argued strong prior to this season that they should blow it up. I could. I can't argue quite that strongly now, because I did see good things at 7-1 and 8-2, and I realized it was on a lesser schedule. I understand that, but they were blowing the doors off people. So I'm not going to dismiss what they did at all. And the schedule got tougher later, and they would have had to bring their A game to beat teams the second half of the season anyway, except Pittsburgh. They never went in Pittsburgh. I'll throw that game out. But to be so hamstrung with 4 or 5 key over the last half of the season, if you'd tell somebody pick these 4 or 5 guys that are most important to you, those are the ones that got hurt. The quarterback and Buck and the corners. So and Braden Smith. So yeah, it's difficult, and like I say, going back to what I said, I hope that Carly comes out and says, and this is why we're doing whatever we do. I think the fan base deserves that. I just do.
Chap, let's do it this way here. We're going to do a little game. I want you to think about the teams that are headed to the postseason, both AFC and NFC, and I'm going to give you 3 names. And for each name, I want you to tell me your level of confidence that they will be returning as a member of the Indianapolis Colts franchise next year. But the way you're going to answer it is this. If I said to you, for example, somebody that there is 0 chance that they are going to, then you would say, I don't know who you think has 0 chance of the postseason. But in other words, you're ranking the postseason teams, okay? And I want you, with your answer, to tell me your level of confidence that they're going to return based on your level of confidence of what it would be for one of these teams in the postseason this year. You get what I'm saying?
You've really complicated things. I could answer that really good when I was 50. Not so much now, but let's try it.
Okay. All right, here we go. So your level of confidence that Chris Ballard will return with the Colts next year is the equivalent of what team's postseason chances this year in the NFL?
Oh, I see what you're doing. Green Bay.
Okay. Shane Steichen.
Well, I'll make it easy. Philadelphia, since he's got some ties there.
Okay. DeForest Buckner.
I think he's back. Yep. Buckner. Gosh. Buffalo, maybe.
Because I don't think Buckner, Chap, the reason I bring that up, I think when you talk about, for example, and I'll just throw the name Chris Ballard out there, when you throw Chris Ballard's name in, there are variables on either side where you could very soundly make the discussion as to whether he should or should not be here next year. And in the case of DeForest Buckner, I don't think it's the slam dunk that he returns and continues his career here that one would assume. I could see he could make very sound arguments in his press conference if he were to retire as to why he is walking away, correct?
Yeah, I tell you, and I've said this before, that when you always hear the Colts throw around, well, he's a horseshoe guy. Well, Buck's a horseshoe guy. He is. He's one of those that you build a bear type of thing. This is what you come up with when you try to build a Colt. It's Buckner, and he has played through so many injuries. A screwed up elbow and ankles. He's left the country twice to get stem cell injections because that's how bad he wants to play at what he's very good at. But the last 2 times that we've talked to him at the Colts complex, he just hasn't had that vibrant tone to him because he's dealing with a neck injury. He's got a herniated disc in his neck that compressed on a nerve, and he was at the complex after he first did it, and he said he couldn't do push-ups. So, and that's when he was talking about when it's an injury like this, you're thinking about long-term, your life after football. You want to be able to play with whatever he's got, 2 or 3 young kids. And that's the first time that I can remember that Buck has been like that. And now it very much could be that he's in the midst of this and it's wearing his butt down. And the worst time to make a decision is when you're in the middle of this. What you do is he's going to have the surgery, well, I guess this week is what Shane Steichen told us. And then you get away from it. And then you sit down with the family and say, what do you think? You'd make that decision in probably March because he's got like a $10 million roster bonus due, I think, in March, early in the league year. So certainly by then, but no, it's not a slam dunk at all. Because when you're dealing with a guy that's already made over $100 million and earned it, let's not say he just was, he earned it, and he's put his body on the line, and he's done great things in his career. But now he doesn't have to do that. It's does he want to do that? Does he want to, know what the risks are? It's one thing to rehab an Achilles or a knee. When you start messing with the back and the spine and all that, that's and your head, the concussions with Mooney Ward, you're talking different level of risk. And I think that he's at the point with the family. All he has to do is go home. You know, some of these young kids, God love them, they go home and they're Superman. They're invulnerable. They're never going to get hurt, or they'll come back when they do. When you go home when you're 30-something and your kids run and hug your leg, that gives you totally different perspective on your career. He's got enough money for his great-grandkids. So it won't be a financial decision. It's going to be whether he is confident, I guess confident in the surgery. I don't know how you have confidence in neck surgery, because he gets hit every play. If he's on the field for 40 plays, he gets smoked 40 plays. You're right. I get winded, but I think I'm with you. I think I wouldn't say 50-50. It's probably a better chance than that he comes back, but it's not a slam dunk at all that DeForest Buckner comes back next year.
Okay, Chap, in conclusion here, Mike Chappell, my guest, Java House Peel and Pour guest line. Occasionally this happens with us. We have, I don't know what it is within the computer here, where when we're talking to somebody, their voice kind of gets sped up like they're on a helium. Now, we've had fun with this. We have Joel A. Erickson. We have different people doing Follow the Yellow
anyway, though.
What's that?
Joel's that way anyway.
I know, but like right now you sound – so here's the thing, Chap. You mentioned like Build-A-Bear earlier, and you've got kind of I'm not going to lie to you, your voice right now, kind of cute. Any chance we can get you to say, this is Chappie Bear, give me a hug? Just simply say that. This is Chappie Bear, give me a hug. Can we get you to say that real quick?
This is Chappie Bear, give me a hug. You know, if me – humiliating myself like that made your day, then fine.
I'm telling you, Chap, we appreciate it as always, man.
I'm gonna hear that driving down the road now, aren't I? I'm just gonna hear it.
No, you're gonna hear it driving down the road. The question is, would it be, Chap? Just out of curiosity, would it be a yellow brick road? Can we get you to say that too?
No. I'm done making an ass of myself. I do that enough. I do that enough anyway. Why I let you walk me into being a bigger ass, I don't know, but I do. So congratulations.
All right, Chap. Happy New Year to you.
You too. You guys be well.
All right, Mike Chappell joining us from CBS 4 and WXI on Fox 59 on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. Again, sometimes when folks are on the hotline, when that happens, it sounds like they're a little sped up. You can make a little pep in the step. Now, it's not going to do that to you, but you want a little extra pep in the step, why not try the Wrangler Energy from Java House?
That's right.
Just pour it right into 8 ounces of water, instant energy drink, and you can get that along with the amazingly smooth Colombian coffee and the Liquid Science Hydration, all part of the bundle. You simply go to javahouse.com, put in the fan. It will take you right to the bundle. You can buy it right there, and Jake 25 gets you 25% off. How about them apples? I asked yesterday your thoughts in, what are we now, through 16 games? 16 words or fewer, your thoughts on the Colts 2025 season, and you folks did not disappoint. I'll read some up next.
Welcome to Wawa. We're open 24/7, so when the sun goes down but everyone's still up, Wawa has your late night fuel. Headed to a hangout? Stop in for snacks and sodas. Binge your favorite shows with burgers and hoagies. Gather around the table with garlic knots and a cheesy Wawa pizza. Or just chill on the couch with fries and whatever milkshake sounds good. Your night just got a whole lot tastier. Freshly made burgers, pizza, and so much more. When you got a late night craving, you got a Wawa. Price and participation may vary by store.
Hi, my name's Robin Fletcher. I've smoked for 46 years. I went to a seminar in March of 27 and seen Mark. My best friend came with me. We both went to it, and neither one of us smoked a cigarette in almost 7.5 months. I took my 3 sisters and my brother-in-law and my sister's best friend, and them went. None of them have smoked a cigarette, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
My name is Jen Carpenter. I went to a Mark Patrick seminar, the Stop Smoking, and it worked. A friend of mine also went, and he still no longer smokes, and it was just amazing.
Lose weight or stop smoking with hypnosis, guaranteed. Only $59.99. Don't just cut down, but stop smoking once and for all, or your money back. Stop the cravings and stop smoking for good. Stop Smoking Hypnosis begins at 8 p.m. on Thursday, January 29th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Noblesville, or at 2 p.m. on Saturday, January 31st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Registration 30 minutes before. Sign up today at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
Xfinity is the network you can rely on. Like a close friend who will give it to you straight. The friend who will tell you that new haircut, it's not great. Friends make sure friends get good haircuts. And Xfinity makes sure you get a good deal on Wi-Fi. Xfinity gives you reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi at our best price. This holiday season through January 4th, get gig speed Wi-Fi for just $50 a month for 5 whole years. No strings, no commitments. Just super fast, reliable gig speed Wi-Fi with our best equipment and unlimited data included. Save yourself from questionable decisions and save over Verizon and AT&T. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Xfinity Internet powered by fiber and connected to premises by coaxial cable. Actual speeds vary.
With Wawa's Rewards program, you can rack up points on the items you buy every day, even fuel. Boost your totals with a breakfast sizzly. Score points with your morning coffee. With Wawa Rewards, points put the power in your hands. You can choose to redeem them for what you love most, like an iced latte for an extra pick-me-up or your lunchtime hoagie. Download the Wawa app today. When you gotta get rewarded, you gotta Wawa. Fuel rewards not available in New Jersey or were legally prohibited. See full details at wawarewards.com. Price and participation may vary by store.
COVID-19 has cast a spotlight on the stark inequalities that drive poverty. The poorest communities in the U.S. and around the world are suffering the most. Oxfam believes we can put systems in place to protect health and livelihoods in the future if we work together with dignity and compassion. Learn how you can help offer safety to the most vulnerable and fight for a more resilient future at oxfamamerica.org. Sponsored by Oxfam America.
If you or someone you know needs help putting food on the table, that help is closer than you think. The Fan cares. We've partnered with local food banks and organizations to provide resources for those who need them. Just go to 1075thefan.com and look for the banner that says Find Free Food Near You. You'll find a link to Community Compass with an up-to-date and interactive map that shows locations, days, and times for you to collect food at no cost, as well as other resources to help you through this challenging time. Find community help now at 1075thefan.com.
Do you own a small business? You need to hear this. A seismic shift is coming. It's time to get super sure. Not kind of sure, not pretty sure, but super sure. Coming soon.
If it's happening with the Indianapolis Colts,
they give it to Taylor.
Then it's happening on the Fan.
Jacksonville has the lead for the first time. The first touchdown of the season for Mo Alley Cox, and he made it with one hand. Colts back on top into the end zone, and it is intercepted by Jacksonville. Antonio Johnson ends the game, and the Colts losing skid now 6 games.
Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The official home of the Indy Sports Fan.
This is Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You know, I feel like Chappie the Bear's got a ring to it, though, doesn't it? Is it just me? And it was starting to come back to normal with the voice thingy, but do we have? Can you replay that? Because I want to know whether or not that worked. Do you happen to have it of him saying, calling himself Chappie the Bear and asking for a hug?
1 second.
Because it has to do with, and again, to recap for everybody, and the engineers have done a great job because now, and they had told us that this was going to be the case when we moved to the new building. There's just a ton that goes into it of fiber optics and everything else. And the stuff was supposed to be all worked itself out here over the course of this week, and it looks like that's the case. But every once in a while, we do get that weird hiccup where it speeds people's voice up, and we've had fun with it with people. Joel A. Erickson, do we happen to have any of the others there, Eddie?
Well, see, I was on sabbatical pretty much, helping out over at the state fairground, so I don't have all those on file. I did get Mike Chappell though.
Here we go. This is as Chappie the Bear from your local toy store.
This is Chappie Bear. Give me a hug. If me humiliating myself like that made your day, then fine.
And just moments prior to that, it seemed a little bit faster, right? Okay, I asked the question. 16 words or fewer, and Tell me your thoughts on the Colts through 16 games. One person, by the way, said, quit doing this. Well, I'm just saying. I ask the question each and every week if I can't stop now, right? Just because they're out, I can't stop now.
See, Jake, you're not like the Colts. You don't disappear as the season goes along.
Correct. Thank you, Eddie. Like the Colts defense that seemingly the last quarter of each season just falls off a cliff. I've been a fan since the move to Indy. Rarely has the future looked as bleak. That from Hoosier Docious. Brent, most disappointing season in a while. Least surprising season in a while. That's pretty good. Michael says, my 19-year-old daughter legitimately asked me if the Colts were ever any good. Timothy, good enough to give you hope, bad enough to let you down. Just a yearly 8-win team. Jason, winning early was fun. Manning-esque era. Last 8 remind us of post-Luck era mediocrity. Barb, renewed season tickets before all goes to hell. No quarterback. Screwed for decades. Scott, the ownership of this team has embarrassed the fans long enough. Time to clean house. Well, you can't clean house on the owners, right? But I think I get what he's saying there. Embarrass this fan base by rolling out the same thing. Sports Rock, shocked at the start, disappointed at the spiral, expected outcome. Sadly, we have no hope. Now, Around Indy says this, a couple of breaks their way, and they could easily have been 12-5 on the season. Fair.
Every team can say that almost.
True. Jacob pointed this out, and this is more than 16 words, but he pointed this out. Could you put together a list of the terrible crap that's happened in the last 11 years? Luck retiring, 33-point lead lost, 7-1 and not make the playoffs, hiring an ESPN personality mid-season as coach, Anthony Richardson helmet tap, Flacco backup, best chance to win to bench him 2 games later. Anything else? I mean, yeah, I guess bringing in a high school football coach to play for a couple of games. I thought Rivers is. I mean, look, I'm not here to bang on Phillip Rivers. I think that and I get also the Colts' circumstance, but at this point, and I said it yesterday somewhat rhetorically. Somewhat rhetorically yesterday, I mentioned why, now that they have been eliminated, what is the reason to start Phillip Rivers? Okay, I get it. You want to win your season finale at home. You owe it to guys on the roster. Okay. But Phillip Rivers yesterday on the field and Phillip Rivers Sunday in Houston does you 0, 0, 0, none, nada, zip, zilch good towards your future. Unless your future is that you bring him back for a Kerry Collins 3 to 4 games. Now, Collins was so bad that it was a 1-game deal, but you get what I'm saying. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, and I'm not saying I think this is going to happen, but I think it's more plausible than you would assume. Anthony Richardson, I don't need to sit here and recap for all of you the saga of Anthony Richardson. You all know it. You all know the ballad of Anthony Richardson by now. You know every word of the song, and when it speeds up, when it gets really good, and then when it slows back down again, it's like American Pie. You know it. It's this long saga. But if Anthony Richardson next year shows up in Westfield and Shane Steichen says, or whoever's coaching the Colts, let's say it's Shane Steichen, and Shane Steichen says, you know what, Daniel Jones, he had a good offseason. You know, guy he fought like crazy. He's a horseshoe guy. He fights like crazy. You know, he's got Daniel, like what he did, got things cleaned up in the offseason, went in, had some surgery, got some things cleaned up, and fought like crazy. And we're optimistic, we're helpful, we're hopeful, and we saw what he was able to do last year, and he's our quarterback. And that's assuming, by the way, that Daniel Jones has been re-signed. Okay? So Daniel Jones goes through, everything looks fine, the leg, the fibula heals, the Achilles heals, and because he's had to be off his leg, everything's really in good shape, and he's good to go, and he's where he needs to be in the process through OTAs and whatever else. But when they show up in Westfield, Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, if he's still here, they say, we're very comfortable with him. But doctors say we need to scale it back a little bit until probably early September before we get him going at 100%. And we don't want to put a quarterback out there in week one that we have to scale back at less than 100% of physically what they're able to do. And so therefore, we are not going to probably start him and get him going in full everyday reps for the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. Say he even starts on PUP. In that scenario, you could start Riley Leonard if you feel that he gives you a chance to win games. And games are really important when, just for example, they still count towards the playoffs. The Colts had a game that had no meaning towards their playoffs. The Colts had a game that realistically all it meant was it made them feel good about themselves in front of the home fans for the last time. It's very important. We want to make sure that our fans feel good. A lot of Christmas gifts being given out in the game, so we want to make sure they all feel good. And in that scenario, they didn't trust Riley Leonard. So are we to believe that that means that they're going to trust him enough to go out there and take over the team and man the ship when it matters?
I think it's a little bit different, Jake, when you prepare all week with Rivers starting and taking every rep.
Okay, let me ask you this. They went into Seattle, who was the number one seed in the NFC, in a game when it still mattered for them. And Phillip Rivers joined the team on Thursday. He started.
Yep.
Did he work reps all week?
Yes. They split.
So he didn't take all the reps?
No.
So they felt confident with a 44-year-old guy who was coaching high school football 3 weeks earlier without having taken all the reps to go into a game that had playoff implication for them against the number one seed on the road, but they didn't feel confident with a guy who's been on their roster, in their room, in their film rooms at every practice all season long because he didn't take the reps during practice. That's simply my point. Now, Anthony Richardson, they could say if he's back next year, and he's under contract, they could have Anthony Richardson be their starter until Daniel Jones is ready to go, but that is a much more convoluted handoff. Because what if Richardson plays really well? Are you creating for yourself there a quarterback controversy? So is there the possibility that Phillip Rivers is skyrocketing that may increase the odds that Indiana University plays in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl? There's something happening and developing before us that might be benefit Indiana. I'll tell you next.
A perfect day with the perfect playlist. But accidents happen. When it happens, hire Hensley. Call Hensley Legal Group at 888-HENSLEY or visit hirehensley.com. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertising.
At Advent, nasal congestion and sinus infections can be solved with an in-office 20-minute procedure. Elsewhere, expect surgery.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP, an elite CompTIA certification partner.
VA education benefits are available to those who qualify.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
he was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hey, it's JMV. Are you hungry, Andy? Cluster Truck crushes all cravings. Pizza, taco, salads, and don't get me started on the salmon and roasted veggies. Oh, and delivery is always free. Order now at clustertruck.com and use my code BIGFAN for $5 off a $25 order or more.
Heat and cool your man cave, attic, garage, or bonus room without adding ductwork with Mitsubishi Electric ductless mini splits.
To find out more, just go to absolutecomfort.org.
Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan.
And her boyfriend too.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Great song. Great song. And speaking of all the places that Tom Petty sings about in this song, even though I realize Free Fallin' is what the Colts were doing the last couple of months of the year, somebody pointed out to me, fabulous point. Jake, I know they're called the Colts. Can we call them actually the quarter horses? Yes. Good until the last quarter of the season horses. The Colts, right? The way it's been the last couple of years. Eddie, if you could please look for me at the calendar before you. And let's recap for everybody what's coming up on this radio station over the next couple of days. For example, special edition of Inside IU Football tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
Yep, 7:05. It'll feature Don Fisher, Kurt Signetti, Scott Dolson, a handful of players from IU. That will be tomorrow night, 7:05, right here on The Fan. Tonight, of course, we've got Pacers and the Houston Rockets. Pregame coverage with Pat Boylan at 7:30. Before that, from 6 to 7, Colts Roundtable Live. Matt Taylor, Shane Steichen will be on the show. Joe Wrights, Rick Venturi as well. Pacers and Orlando Magic on Wednesday. Pregame starting at 2:30, so an abbreviated show for you, Jake. Noon until 2:30 on Wednesday. No GMV on Wednesday as well. We will carry the Cotton Bowl Wednesday night between Miami and Ohio State. That coverage on The Fan will start at 7 o'clock. And, of course, you can listen to IU on The Fan as well against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Don Fisher, John Herrick, and Buck Sewer will have pregame coverage starting at 3 o'clock. That coverage will last for about 4 to 5 hours on The Fan. And then after that game, right here on The Fan, we will have the Ole Miss and Georgia game in the Sugar Bowl. So that's Thursday on New Year's Day. On Friday the 2nd, all of us should be back for shows, so that's good to know. JMV will be live from Ralston's, and then Colts Happy Hour will take place from 5:30 to 6:30. Victor Wembanyama makes his debut of this season at Gamebridge Fieldhouse Friday night. 6:30 pregame coverage, 7 o'clock tip on The Fan.
Okay, so Thursday you mentioned the Rose Bowl, correct?
Yes.
3 o'clock?
That is when pregame coverage will start, yes. Kick at 4.
So, the forecast for Pasadena, California. And here are my tips for you if you're going to the Rose Bowl. Number one, and I'm not kidding you, buy some sort of a seat cushion. Because when I was at the Rose Bowl, which is an unbelievably, and I am thrilled for Indiana fans and anybody that's able to go to that venue in one of the most beautiful parts of the country and watch a game. Awesome. Everything about it awesome. But the Rose Bowl seats 90,000. It's a venue that when you're sitting in it, you think to yourself, this probably holds 50, 55. And that's because it is the most compact, packed-in place ever. Take a seat cushion or something to make your seat comfortable because they're just like hard plastic seats, almost like it's Ross-Ade is similar, but that's benches if you go up higher up in Ross-Ade. Also take, and my tip here is this. Have you ever heard of frog togs, Eddie?
Oh, yes.
Frog togs are the most unbelievable invention known to man.
I've had a frog tog since I was like 10.
$19.99, I think usually they cost. You buy them at like Walmart, Meijer, or whatever. I discovered frog togs years ago when we were doing an IndyCar race in Watkins Glen, and it was literally a torrential downpour. I went to the Walmart in Corning, New York, and asked, and they're like, "Oh, right here." It's basically fisherman's gear, or fisherwoman's gear, but it is like a paper thin pant and jacket combo that goes in a little pouch, and it is literally waterproof. It's unbelievable. Perfect for Pasadena because 100% chance of rain in Pasadena, California on New Year's Day. Now, this alone, I know that they just sold the Powerball for $1.8 billion, and some guy in Arkansas or gal in Arkansas won it, okay? But this is like winning the lottery to an extent on the other end of things because Pasadena, California, I'm guessing, has rainout days like 7 times a year. 100% chance of rain in Pasadena. But wait, to quote Lee Corso, not so fast, my friends. Oftentimes, and you've all been bit by this now, when you look at your phone and you look at the count and you look at it and you go, oh, it's 100% chance of rain on Wednesday. Well, what that doesn't tell you is the rain happens between midnight and 12:20 a.m. So, yes, technically that's on that day and it rained, right? That's kind of what's in play here. But it looks like it is going to rain in Pasadena literally from New Year's Eve at midnight all the way through, tapering off towards late in the evening on New Year's Day. But at the time that the game kicks off in California, you're basically looking at already having rained all day and still a 40% chance that it's going to be raining over the course of the game. This is actually a huge potential benefit for Indiana. Not that they need many of them, because I think Indiana is better than Alabama. Certainly, Indiana gives you a better understanding of who they are than Alabama. But Alabama, when playing at their best, when Alabama is clicking like they were for the second half against Oklahoma, is still very, very good. But they don't run the ball well. And Alabama's strength is in their speed, their separation, and their space. And you get into mud slop with rain continuing to pour down, you're going to have to run the ball. You're going to have to move the football between the tackles. You're going to have to win the line of scrimmage. And that would be advantage Indiana. Indiana's front four is their strength defensively. I mean, they obviously have, like in Pons, they've got very good defensive backs, but they are very nasty and aggressive up front. And Alabama's weakness offensively has been running between the tackles and moving the football. That is absolutely advantage Indiana. And I hope people that go out, I haven't looked at the forecast. I think most people probably are going out a couple of days early to enjoy Southern California. I have been to the Rose Bowl as a venue numerous times. I've driven past it a gabillion times. And I have been inside the venue for one event, and it was a concert, not a sporting event. It is an amazing place in an amazing part of the country that is absolutely beautiful. And the one thing that I feel bad for fans that are going is the real magic of the Rose Bowl is seeing that unbelievable sunset just on the outside of the stadium. You know, as you look outside the stadium, it's the most majestic. It's incredible. It's why the Rose Bowl as a television event is the granddaddy of them all. And I hope that there is some way to be able to see or experience that, even if the weather is not going to be ideal. But advantage Indiana in that regard. Now, Miami and Ohio State, you'll hear on this radio station Wednesday at 7. That game's not going to be close, is it, Eddie? Doesn't Ohio State win that going away? Eddie is staring at the floor.
I would assume so, but you never know in these games, Jake.
Miami,
Extended time off. Miami's the fresher team.
That's fair.
I think they have a really good defense too. So,
but I think my I would say concern with Ohio State, just because I don't like them, but my thought on Ohio State is that, and this is probably totally unfair, and it's probably dismissive or disrespectful to Indiana, because I think without question the two best teams in college football are Indiana and Ohio State. Duh, they're ranked 1 and 2. I get it. No, but I'm saying I think they are in a – Georgia's right there, though. I think Georgia-Ohio State is the real – assuming that matchup comes to fruition. That will be a fascinating game because Georgia's really, really good. That's probably a 50-50 game. But I hope that we're not going to find out that Ryan Day was playing it conservative throughout the course of the season, and then now that the postseason is here is when they say, all right, boys, you know, it goes back to, and I'm not saying this is the case with Ohio. I don't know. I'm just saying it's my worry. Secretariat in the 73 Belmont, Secretariat had already won the Kentucky Derby with the fastest time in the history of Churchill Downs. Secretariat had already won the Preakness in the fastest time in the history of that point of the Preakness. And Secretariat goes into the Belmont, and Sham was still right there as somebody that could contend with Secretariat. And Sham had been the runner-up in the second fastest running of the Kentucky Derby of all time. And going into the Belmont, nobody knew exactly what was going to happen. Was Ronnie Turcotte going to be given specific instruction on how to go against Sham? Was Sham going to be told specific instruction from the rider standpoint how to handle Secretariat? And they told Ronnie Turcotte, let her rip. Don't even worry about Sham. Sham's instruction is going to be to run alongside Secretariat in the beginning, try to wear him out, fall back a little bit, and then make a late push. And they said to Ronnie Turcotte, you know what? Here it is, the last leg of the Belmont, the last leg of the Triple Crown in the Belmont. Let's go for it. And they came out of turn number 1, and Secretariat pulled away, and before you know it, he was moving like a tremendous machine. And I wonder if Ohio State is not the same, where Ryan Day is going to say, okay, now we're in the final leg. Let's go. Because they didn't have Jeremiah Smith on the field for, 8 third down plays against Indiana? Tate also, they very rarely lined both of them up on the field at the same time.
Well, I know both of them had been dealing with injuries later in the season.
For sure. They were just coming back off of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's my one concern.
I also don't want to be that guy, Jake, but they missed a gimme field goal and had a turnover on downs that you normally don't see with the quarterback's knee just going down on a QB sneak.
Why the timing for the Colts may be now. I'll explain next in Brian Newbert, bottom of the hour.
If it's happening with the Indianapolis Colts,
they give it to Taylor.
Then it's happening on the Fan.
Jacksonville has the lead for the first time. The first touchdown of the season for Mo Alley Cox, and he made it with one hand. Colts back on top into the end zone, and it is intercepted by Jacksonville. Antonio Johnson ends the game, and the Colts losing skid now 6 games.
Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
The official home of the Indy Sports Fan.
Looking for something to do on New Year's Eve?
Nemhard has it. Drives to the dotted half. Up top to Huff, and Huff delivers a catch-and-shoot 3.
Start your New Year's celebration as the Pacers host the Orlando Magic in an afternoon game Wednesday at 3. It's a celebration for the whole family.
4 seconds to shoot. 3 seconds to shoot. Nemhard way out on the left edge. Beat the clock and hit a 3.
Get your tickets at Pacers.com/tickets.
Jackson lays it in and draws a foul.
Pacers Magic, Wednesday at 3.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Totally changed my life.
It's amazing. I don't have any cravings. You want to quit, but have found it impossible? This is the thing for you. I have absolutely no craving. It's the darndest thing I have ever seen in my life.
It's not for entertainment. It's for results.
Do it. It works. Period.
You've tried everything else. You need to come and try this.
Stop smoking with hypnosis. Only $59.99 guaranteed or your money back. Stop smoking with hypnosis, guaranteed, with no irritability and no cravings. Don't just cut down, but stop smoking once and for all. In addition, use hypnosis to lose all the weight and destroy unwanted cravings. Hypnosis programs are Thursday, January 29th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Noblesville. Weight loss hypnosis at 5:30, stop smoking hypnosis 8 p.m. Or Saturday, January 31st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Weight loss hypnosis 11 a.m., stop smoking hypnosis at 2 p.m. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
Switching to Progressive is a game-winning call. And that reminds us of other game-winning calls in the history of sports.
It was a doubleheader in August and really hot inside the concession stand. So instead of waiting for people to come to me, I figured I'd walk around yelling, "Hot dogs here!" And that's how I became the first hot dog vendor in sports.
Okay, not really a game-winning call, but it was a good call. You can make one too. Switch to Progressive and you could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
Hey, JMV, thinning hair this year. Grow your hair back like I did. Call 317-522-2995 or visit WeGrowHairIndy.com today.
From the DriveHubler.com studios, this is 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
WIBC HD2, HD3, Indianapolis. The Ohio State Buckeyes take on the Miami Hurricanes in the Cotton Bowl. Wednesday night at 7 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's Query and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
Back in the throw is Lawrence. Colts bring pressure. Lawrence out of the pocket. Upfield at the 5, veering left, and he's going to scamper in for a touchdown. Lawrence, direct snap. He's going to take off and run and scamper into the end zone for a touchdown. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns today. Motion out to the left side, including Downs, Warren, and Michael Pittman Jr.
They're blitzing.
Rivers throws that way, intercepted, 30, 25, 20-yard line, and being stopped right there is Jerrion Jones. Prevent defense by Jacksonville. They're going to rush 5. Back in the throw is Leonard. Steps away from trouble, throws downfield. It's got enough air on it into the end zone, and it is intercepted by Jacksonville at the I in Indianapolis in the end zone. 23-17 is the final score, and the Colts losing skid now has reached 6 games.
Guys fought like crazy. I thought our guys battled like crazy. At the end of the day, it wasn't enough, but I thought defense, got some turnovers, some stops, special teams, dueling. We had some big returns, set our offense up, good field position. At the end of the day, we didn't make enough plays. Obviously, there's circumstances that are uncontrollable, some things, but there are controllable things that you can control, and you got to fight and find ways to win tight games, and that's what this league is. We haven't done a good enough job of that, and that starts with me. We got to find ways to win tight games.
Where do we go now? Where do we go?
That's how it sounded yesterday. Matt Taylor, Rick Venturi on the call for the Colts Radio Network. Shane Steichen post-game, and then those words from Lafayette's Axl Rose. Where do we go now? Where do you go from here? Good afternoon to you if you are just joining us on the program.
Where have you been?
Thank you,
thank
Eddie.
you for listening now.
We do, in fact. This is Query & Company here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. On
Is that like
this,
a backhanded compliment?
What's that?
Is that like a backhanded compliment?
Which one's that?
Like, where have you been? But thank you for listening now.
Well, no, it's just saying that we are appreciative of any ear that we can get, right?
I didn't know if that was like a backhanded compliment.
We will take any listener that we can get on this.
You know,
fine
Jake,
radio
that
program.
shirt makes you look a little pudgy, but I think that color looks great on you.
This shirt makes me look pudgy?
No, I was just saying that's what it feels like to me.
Okay, fair enough. I don't think it's a backhanded compliment. I think it's a nudge of simply, where have you been, right? Like
you know,
said.
we've been here since noon, so why haven't you been listening? Yeah.
People have things to do. Like, for example, Jim, who I met over the weekend that listens while he's at the Jordan Y, and his wife, Peggy. Great dude. Super nice guy. Appreciated talking to people over the weekend, especially yesterday at our Jack Daniels and Bud Light Ultimate Tailgate out in front of the Slippery Noodle. Talked to Greg there, Leanne. And one of the things that everyone asked, where do they go from here? And here's my answer. There are two ways that I can answer that question. The first would be to say what I think they should do, and the other would be to say what I think they will do. And the reality is, I don't know the answer to the second of that. I don't know definitively what the thought process is going to be in terms of the direction of the Colts. But I'm going to tell you what I think it should be. And what it should be for me is irrelevant in terms of the thought process of the Colts. I'm not arrogant enough to think that the opinions, the guidance, the projections of a radio host are going to influence the decisions made by the ownership group or the general manager or the front office, the brass of an NFL organization. But I think I speak for Colts fans in saying this, and I'm going to say it the way I mentioned it earlier. I know sometimes it gets a little bit tiresome, maybe even irresponsible, to tie in one sports franchise in a town to another. I know that in this town, we have had times where the Pacers and Colts have been clicking on all cylinders simultaneously. But more often than not, we have one franchise that's doing really well while the other one is struggling. And there might be some competition in terms of motivation between the two franchises. I know they play well in the sandbox and they root for each other and they post things publicly in support. But deep down, they have to be. They're competing for the same competitive dollar to a great extent. So they have to, at times, probably want to be the one that gets to sit at the head of the table in this market. And when it comes to the Colts and where they are right now and their plot in things and their lot in life and their placement within this market and where they go from here, I found myself yesterday sitting and watching, and I found myself sitting in Gainbridge Fieldhouse in early June. And I know, what? What are you talking about, dude? We're talking about the Colts losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're talking about a team that started 7-1 and was sitting at 8-2, and now they're 8-8 and they're out of the playoffs. And they knew they were out of the playoffs when the Houston defense continued to make plays against Justin Herbert on Saturday night. And you're talking about something that happened at a basketball arena in the summer? Yes, I am. And let me explain why. I sat there and I watched the Indiana Pacers 4 quarters away. I watched in what was one of the most electric and great moments and evenings of my life, Game 6, and I'm blessed to have been there, like many of you. Game 6 in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, I watched it, and I watched the celebration knowing that the Indiana Pacers were getting ready to go on the road for one game. They were one game from an NBA title. And I thought about February of 2022. When the Pacers, who had for 3 straight years been playing beyond the regular season, they had been a 9 seed in that weird play-in game thing. They'd been a 5 seed. They'd been a 4 seed. Playing a system that they believed in of Sabonis and Turner and the double big man combo. And in February of 2022, we all got the push alert. Domas Sabonis had been traded. He'd been traded for Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton and Domas Sabonis and Turner Sabonis and that combo, which had not been disastrous.
And Jeremy Lamb and Justin Holiday. Don't forget about them.
Correct. But that combo had not been disastrous. And Justin Holiday had been a good player. Jeremy Lamb was kind of a Dow Jones. But the Pacers found themselves stuck in a mediocrity. They found themselves stuck in an area in a ceiling they couldn't break through. Those are good players that you mentioned. Nice role players. Justin Holiday, nice role player. Domas Sabonis, fabulous talent, very good player. But the Pacers decided that there was no perfect time to make seismic change. You can't sit around and wait for it sometimes. I mentioned earlier, everybody has been in that relationship where you see two people. I'm not even going to say a relationship you've been in, but you see your two friends that are dating and you know it's just kind of stale. It just seems like it's run its course and they're really good friends and they're good people, but they just don't seem to be a match. And it's like, do you think they'll ever break up? Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Tim had mentioned to me that he was thinking about it, but it was like 3 weeks before Valentine's Day. The timing just wasn't right. So they kind of just continued on, went through the motions. And then Sally actually mentioned that she was thinking about breaking up with Tim, but Tim's dog didn't feel well, and he had to keep taking him to the vet. And it was an emotional time. Timing wasn't right. And then that led right up to they were going to do it again, but it was actually Tim and Sally. Their birthdays are a week apart, and they were right there. And so there's never the perfect time. Never. You don't sit around and wait for it. Sometimes you got to be proactive. Not reactive, but proactive. And the Indiana Pacers in February of 2022 realized they were stuck in a vat of mediocrity, and they seismically blew it up, and they made the time for them to be the perfect time. And then they came and said, we're going to need you to understand that we don't know if it's going to be perfect, but we're asking you for the time and the understanding that we're trying to get this right. And they went out and they held a press conference where they said, we're going to be bad for a while because we're totally rebuilding this thing. And I sat there in Gainbridge Fieldhouse in June watching the Indiana Pacers destroy Oklahoma City in a finals game, 4 quarters from winning an NBA title, and I thought to myself, in February of 2022, no one knew this is where it could go, but the first step towards getting here was understanding that sometimes what is imperfect can be made perfect if you take the first step and you realize that you have to make it the timing of yours. Now, Shane Steichen after the game, Eddie, we played this earlier. Let's listen to Shane Steichen talk about the things that his team did correctly yesterday in that game. Knowing that they were going in a game that didn't matter towards their playoff fate, Shane Steichen knew that they were going in a game that didn't matter towards their postseason, but nonetheless, he critiqued afterwards the way that they played and the approach they took.
Well, I think our guys are professionals. They understood, going into the game, what the situation was. And you know what? We signed up for 17 of these things, and it's our job to go out and fight like crazy, to go give our best effort. And I thought our guys, played hard today and fought like crazy. You just fell short.
Fight like crazy. Fought like crazy. And you know what is crazy? On a side note, doing the same thing over and over and expecting that miraculously it's going to be different and waiting for the perfect time to make that change or waiting for it to just find perfection on its own. Now, if you look at the history of the Colts, Carroll Rosenblum owned the Baltimore Colts. And when he owned the Baltimore Colts, they had a record of 154 wins and 90 losses. That was their record at the time that the franchise was swapped with Bob Irsay, who had just bought the Rams. And Bob Irsay took over as the owner of the Baltimore Colts, later to become the Indianapolis Colts. And in the ownership of Bob Irsay, the franchise was 153, 226, and 1. And then upon Bob's passing, Jim Irsay took over as the owner. And during his tenure as the owner, during his time, 257, 194, and 1. Vastly improved. Part of that, though, due to the fact that Bill Polian, a stable, long-term, dyed-in-the-wool football man, and Peyton Manning, let's not forget, leading into Andrew Luck. Without Bill Polian, the Colts record, 111-101 under Jim Irsay. 111-101. Overall totality of the Irsay family ownership, 410 wins, 420 losses, 2 ties. What that comes down to is, on average, 8 or 9 wins a year. 8-8, 7-9, 9-7, right in there. The vat of mediocrity. If you take out, realistically, the Peyton Manning and the Andrew Luck era, the vat of mediocrity. Not terrible. Not terrible. And Jim Irsay, philanthropic football man, no question. None of this is an indictment on anybody in terms of their character, but rather to say, sometimes the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different result. And the Colts, the one thing they've done over and over under Chris Ballard is been reactive as opposed to proactive. They have more often than not waited to make decision instead of creating their own perfect time, or had to make a decision to make up for the wrong one. Chris Ballard's first big job was to hire a coach. Hired Josh McDaniels. Made it announced it out there, let it be known to the world before the man had signed a contract that bound him as the head coach. He changes his mind, egg on face. Jim Irsay says, Frank Reich, somebody I'm familiar with. Boom. Now all of a sudden, you have Frank Reich and Chris Ballard is dealing with a coach that was not his primary pick. The quarterback situation. Yes, I know. Andrew Luck retired. I don't know if anybody heard that or not. Bad timing. You knew it wasn't bad timing for Andrew Luck, because Andrew Luck decided that the timing then was perfect for him to go into the next phase of his life. He made his own timing. He was proactive, not reactive.
And gave him a nice $24 million parting gift.
Correct. But Andrew Luck made the timing that was best for him. People didn't like it around here. But the Colts then had to go out and find a franchise quarterback. And they kept delaying that decision. Ultimately went with Carson Wentz. Guess what? Owner didn't like him. Bad hire. Back to kicking the can. Back to veteran quarterbacks. And then ultimately settled on Anthony Richardson. And what did you have after that? Having to go then and again be reactive and have to overcorrect on a decision that probably was not the right one.
And even still, they weren't proactive enough to trade up to get the guy they may have wanted.
Correct.
Who's now in Houston.
And C.J. Stroud, who clearly, I think, at the time in that draft process, you could see Frank Reich, who was in Carolina, wanted C.J. Stroud. They ended up with Bryce Young, whole different talk show. But nonetheless, as I was watching that game yesterday, and I thought the Colts did play well, and they fought hard.
Like crazy.
They fought like crazy. And I thought, of course they did, because now it doesn't matter. Because this era of Colts football has routinely been making it count once it doesn't count anymore. They have been reacting to something that has already escaped them because they weren't proactive when it mattered most. And I don't know Chris Ballard personally. I have interviewed him. I found him engaging at times. I found him smug at times. I found him confident at times. I found him insecure more times than not. Do I think he knows football? Of course. Do I think he's forgotten more football than I know? Probably. Do I think that there are areas where he knows the game and can scout the game and understands the game? Of course. Do I think he has more often than not erred in the draft? Yes. Do I think that he has built them depth in the trenches? No. Do I think that he has brought them a pass rush ever? No. Do I think that he continues to chase the quarterback situation and try to find stability? Yes. And yes, they had injury this year. I get it. But For what reason, if you bring back Chris Ballard after a season that at very best is going to be 9-8, for what reason, if you bring back Chris Ballard at 9-8, where, yes, not his fault that Daniel Jones is coming off injury, now you've got to figure out whether or not you can even re-sign Daniel Jones, and if you do, when he's going to be ready to go, and who his backup's going to be if he's not ready to go, and who you can have at the backup position that's not some sort of a sticky situation in terms of the handoff and the passing the baton from one quarterback to the next. And you don't have, lest I remind you, a first-round pick in each of the next 2 drafts. What about doing that all over again and waiting for the perfect scenario? Daniel Jones is ready to go week 1. Your roster is back. You don't know about DeForest Buckner at this point. What about any of that, though, based on the previous 9 years, leads you to believe that it's going to be anything other than the same thing over and over, which is the definition of crazy, which at least at the very least is the way they fought yesterday? What about it leads you to believe? What level of evidence? When Bill Polian, very famously or infamously on a radio program that JMV was manning in this market, not this radio station, got into an argument with Jay Moore about Edgerrin James, and Bill Polian said, "You don't have a shred of evidence." What part of next season suddenly going in the direction with all of the right moves and everything being as it should be right now that they're going to ascend themselves back into the upper stratosphere of the NFL where they can stay for long term? What shred of evidence do you have to indicate that? It is very difficult to find. None of this is personal, but it's factual. And the facts indicate that there's never a perfect time to make seismic change. But the Colts continue to play with Turner and Sabonis. And I don't know that their Tyrese Halliburton is out there somewhere. Maybe it's Daniel Jones. But right now, the Tyrese Halliburton that this franchise for the Colts needs is not as the floor general, but as the boardroom general. Because they need a new juice of life. They need a new perspective. They need a new direction. And now, that's what I think needs to happen. It is not my desire, nor anybody in this field, to pine for someone to be unemployed. It's not. Chris Ballard will be fine. He's made a lot of money, and he'll find another job elsewhere. It's not like he's going to be unemployed forever. But simply for the sake of the franchise, the fan base, and this team, it is my belief that that's the change that needs to be made. It is also my belief that that likely won't happen. Because I don't know Carly Ursay-Gordon at all. At all. Don't know her at all. I don't know that Stephen Holder knows her. I don't know that Mike Chappell knows her. I don't know that Joel A. Erickson knows her. Because she is essentially in her first year as the primary owner. Yes, I understand she was very involved, especially in the later years of Jim Irsay. I understand and respect all of that. You know who does know her? Chris Ballard. You know who does know her? Shane Steichen. So Carly Ursay-Gordon would have much more knowledge about what those men mean to the direction of the franchise than what I, or what she wants to see than I would. One would hope, and I think the vast majority, I will respectfully disagree with Mike Chappell in this regard. The people that want Chris Ballard out are not a loud minority. I think they are the overwhelming majority of Colts fans. I think the overwhelming majority of Colts fans have seen enough. But I also understand that Carly Ursay-Gordon is still, by the standard of it all, new to the ownership position. And I also understand and totally respect if, in fact, that allows her to feel a comfort with familiarity and familiarity of the people around her. And that while she is still navigating her way through being an owner and making changes and all of those things, she may well say, look, when this team was healthy, we were talking about how they had as good a roster as anybody in the league. When this team was healthy, we were talking about historic precedent in terms of offensive efficiency. When this team was healthy, we were talking about a quarterback and a running back that were in the conversation for most valuable player. And when this team was healthy, I saw a trade being made for a cornerback that is young that we thought was the final piece in letting us contend for a Super Bowl trophy. And all of those cases and points being made have merit. They are not inaccurate. They are not. And what I don't know, nor does anybody from here to the man in the moon know, is whether or not those thoughts are long-term valid. All I know is this. Sometimes in life, you have to look at precedent. And oftentimes, success in life is found not in chasing the exception to the rule, but following the guidelines of the rules themselves. And the guidelines of the rules under the tenure of Chris Ballard with the Indianapolis Colts is, in fact, being stuck in that vat of Turner and Sabonis. And that's where they are. And that's why I believe they should make a change philosophically. But I'm not the one over there on West 56th Street that is making those decisions. And I respect, because there is, in fact, if you were giving this as a high school debate class, there is, in fact, a very sound argument that you could align for kids on both sides of the classroom, on both sides of it. But people asked me what I thought they should do. That's what I think they should do. People ask me what I thought they will do. And as of right now, on this, and I can never remember if today's the 28th, 29th, 30th, whatever it might be. I think today's the 29th.
It's the last Monday of 2025.
Thank you. On this, the last Monday of 2025, that's where I think things stand. Now, another thing when it comes to seismic change. No perfect timing for seismic change. There are winds of change sweeping through college basketball. Brian Newbert watches Purdue, who might be one of them that is standing as the old guard as this wind of change takes place. But I wanted to have Newbert on not only to talk about Purdue, who's got Kent State tonight, but also to talk about the change in the evolution of college basketball because he has written about it on Gold and Black. And he's going to join us next.
Welcome to Wawa. We're open 24/7, so when the sun goes down but everyone's still up, Wawa has your late night fuel. Headed to a hangout? Stop in for snacks and sodas. Binge your favorite shows with burgers and hoagies. Gather around the table with garlic knots and a cheesy Wawa pizza. Or just chill on the couch with fries and whatever milkshake sounds good. Your night just got a whole lot tastier. Freshly made burgers, pizza, and so much more. When you got a late night craving, you got a Wawa. Price and participation may vary by store.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an elite CompTIA certification partner.
Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
This is Window Nation, your source for affordable replacement windows at the highest quality. Maybe you've been feeling drafts through your old windows, or they stick when you try to open them, or they outright leak in bad weather. You need the experienced pros at Window Nation. They've installed over 3 million windows and have high-quality options to fit any budget. You could pay a lot less than the other big guys and still get the premium windows you're dreaming of. Their custom-made windows are guaranteed to be a perfect fit in your home, and they back it up with the best warranty in the industry. So shut out the drafts, make opening and closing a breeze, and lock out the leaks for good. Get a great deal on replacement windows from Window Nation today. Go to getwindownation.com or call 866-90NATION for your free estimate. And for a limited time, get 50% off all window styles, plus pay no interest for 5 years. Go to getwindownation.com or call 866-90NATION.
Xfinity is the network you can rely on. Like a close friend who will give it to you straight. The friend who will tell you that new haircut, it's not great. Friends make sure friends get good haircuts. And Xfinity makes sure you get a good deal on Wi-Fi. Xfinity gives you reliable fiber-powered Wi-Fi at our best price. This holiday season through January 4th, get gig speed Wi-Fi for just $50 a month for 5 whole years. No strings, no commitments. Just super fast, reliable gig speed Wi-Fi with our best equipment and unlimited data included. Save yourself from questionable decisions and save over Verizon and AT&T. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. Xfinity Internet powered by fiber and connected to premises by coaxial cable. Actual speeds vary.
With Wawa's Rewards program, you can rack up points on the items you buy every day, even fuel. Boost your totals with a breakfast sizzly. Score points with your morning coffee. With Wawa Rewards, points put the power in your hands. You can choose to redeem them for what you love most, like an iced latte for an extra pick-me-up or your lunchtime hoagie. Download the Wawa app today. When you gotta get rewarded, you gotta Wawa. Fuel rewards not available in New Jersey or were legally prohibited. See full details at wawarewards.com. Price and participation may vary by store.
Food insecurity is an urgent problem, one that impacts real Hoosiers. You can help today. Gleaners needs donations. Your contribution goes further with Gleaners. For every $10 you give, Gleaners leverages their resources to turn your $10 into $90 worth of groceries for families who desperately need help right now. Your gift benefits local community members, and every dollar counts. Gleaners also needs volunteers now to help with warehouse distribution. Go to gleaners.org and donate or get involved today.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Really good point. Corey says, Jake, I always chalk up the Ballard Colts era to Jeff Saturday was at one point head coach. I'm still waiting for the Richardsons, Kwity Paye's, and Liatus to wow me. Andy brought in a 44-year-old quarterback out of a 4-year retirement to try to save the season. He's got to go. That according to our buddy Corey Elliott. Well said. Listen, again, none of it is like some sort of a personal thing. I just think that eventually you've got to look at the body of work and say, how many times are we going to say, yeah, but one more run? Yeah, but just one more time. Eventually, you've got to just basically say, you know what? I'm not going to wait for the perfect time. That music should have told you everything you need to know about our next guest, Brian Newbert, who joins us on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. JavaHouse.com is the website. Jake25 to get 25% off for your Peel and Pour pods. And Brian had a really good article at Golden Black as we've talked about the world of college basketball and the ever kind of like yesterday to today, this sweeping wind that comes in and changes everything. Weekly Word, college basketball ringers, Purdue football and basketball and more from Brian Newbert, who joins us on the show. Brian, when I saw the column, I saw right there the picture of Scott Drew, and I knew exactly what it was about. We have entered into the wild, wild west, have we not?
I think they entered into that a long time ago, but I think they have transcended it now by basically taking all the rules that were already there that they complain about and then just blowing them all up. So coaches have no one to blame but themselves. They have to be the ones to just not do this, show some restraint here and there. Don't blame the rules that your presidents and your athletic directors wrote. Blame yourselves. Like, stop doing it. If you think it might not be good for college basketball to go sign a draft pick just because you can and not should, just don't do it. Because now there's all kinds of precedent established here, all sorts of other loopholes that have been created by this one loophole hunting coach who I used to feel bad for because BYU signed or bought away his best player last spring, but now he just damaged the game. I know people will say coaches have to do what they have to do to win, but these guys also signed up to be college basketball coaches, and they get paid very well to do it, and that's all they care about is protecting that. So if this James Najee situation creates stuff like this to come, then, the soul of college basketball is compromised.
And for those unfamiliar, I can't imagine there are those, but for those unfamiliar, what we're talking about is players now that have been on a two-way contract in the NBA that are now eligible or deemed to be eligible. Scott Drew signing or, going out and recruiting one for Baylor. We're seeing more. There's a player that just scored, I think, in an NBA game that has opened up recruiting from a college standpoint. Brian, I flippantly posted this yesterday, and I want your reaction to it. But I've mentioned this casually over the last probably 5 years. But I jokingly said, the 2030-31 NBA G League, Alabama Crimson Tide, Arkansas Razorbacks, Baylor Bears, Ignite, IMG Academy, Indiana Hoosiers, Kansas Jayhawks, Kentucky Wildcats, Oregon Ducks. You get the point. Are we headed there where eventually you're going to have power programs that are going to secede away from the NCAA and say, you know what, we are now aligning ourselves with NBA funding and we are going to become a G League? I know that sounds ludicrous, or does it?
Just to circle back on something real quick, the James Najee kid who signed with Baylor didn't sign an NBA contract, so that's what allows him to be.
He was drafted in. He was foreign, right? Drafted in.
He was drafted, but he did not sign.
Correct. Okay, my apologies.
So Trenton Flowers is the kid who is in the G League now. Who there was a report this weekend about him getting some interest. He has played in NBA games. I can't imagine him possibly being eligible to play college basketball, but that hasn't stopped schools from at least calling to try to find out, because that's the extent they're willing to go. But a lot of schools behind the scenes have kind of separated themselves from that since that first came out. Whether or not you will see, college basketball become kind of a G League type of situation, as you kind of alluded to, I don't know. I mean, ultimately, you're still tethered to higher education. As much as that's become a punchline here in recent years, I don't know how these admissions offices are getting this done. In a lot of cases, but I think college basketball to a certain extent has always been a G League because all the one and dones. The NBA has that rule, not because they want those guys going to college to benefit the colleges, but because they want those guys becoming stars in their sport before they get to the NBA. So there's a brand there so that people are interested in the draft. That's always been kind of a self-serving NBA rule. I don't know where this goes, but all the professionals coming over from Europe, a lot of whom are in their 20s, a lot of these, fringe NBA guys who might be worming their way into college basketball now because coaches let them in. This is all about the coaches. This is not the NCAA. I think people need to understand that the NCAA is the coaches and is the university presidents. They write the rules, and then their coaches go and find ways around those rules. So when Scott Drew comes out today and blames the NCAA for there not being rules, he's telling on himself, because he's in the NABC. His university is part of the NCAA that forms these committees that make these rules, and then he goes out, sees a loophole, takes advantage of it, and then blows up all the other rules. So who knows where this goes from here? But the NCAA does not move quickly, as we know. So if anybody expects there to be rules passed down tomorrow that coaches can no longer do this sort of stuff, that's just not going to happen. It's up to the coaches to not do it. And coaches can't help themselves because they need to win. They need to protect their contracts. And they will do whatever they have to do to benefit them right here, right now, and not worry about what it means for the sport that they have loomed large in for their entire careers.
Brian, one of the things that most impresses me about Brian Newbert's my guest, Java House Peel and Port Gas Line. He's with Gold and Black. What has most impressed me about Matt Painter and about the Purdue basketball program is it almost feels like they're like the last pillar of scruples here in this. And when you look at Trey Kaufman-Wren and Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, guys that had opportunity to go elsewhere once, particularly that they were established at Purdue, there's a culture there. And that's such an overused word, culture, right?
Yes.
But
It's
Matt
a catch-all
Painter,
for everything.
yeah, I mean, and Matt Painter has been able to go out and say, and he's masterful at using this magnifying glass to scrutinize and look over players and say, that guy has my culture. Can Purdue continue to do that? Or are these guys the last sand going through the hourglass before eventually everyone has to conform to this new way?
Well, I don't think he's going to go to the lengths that, Scott Drew just went to. I don't think he's going to go to the lengths that the BYUs of the world, a lot of the big money places are going to go to. Purdue's players do very well financially. This isn't, a situation where Purdue has refused to acclimate to the conditions on the ground. They just don't push boundaries. They just play the game as the rules are written. You could make a tortured argument that Scott Drew's doing the same thing, but that doesn't mean that what he's doing is in the best interest of the game. Purdue has done things its way, which it would call the right way. I would tend to agree with it. I've always kind of wondered, when the FBI stuff came out, nothing came of it. Like, who's the sucker here? Is it the people doing it the right way, or is it the people doing it the wrong way,
right,
or the illegal way? And I think that Purdue's success here the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years has kind of validated Purdue's way as an effective way. You can still do it a certain way and win big. I don't see that really falling off a cliff after this year when all these seniors leave Purdue. I think they've got a pretty good thing set up. It's sustainable. It's going to get you at some point. It's going to get you when somebody you don't expect to leaves. It's going to get you when somebody does jump for more money. I think the whole discussion about Purdue keeping all these guys in school, when people talk about that they completely underestimate the fact that sometimes guys want to play where they want to play. If they're happy at the school they're at, making $2.5 million a year instead of $1 million a year, it's not as big a deal. And I think all of these guys appreciate that Matt Painter's been fair with them. He's been honest with them. They can't ask for better basketball situations because they've played every minute they can handle since day one at Purdue. They've never been lied to. They've never been promised things that weren't delivered upon. And that's just kind of his way of doing things. And I'm sure a lot of coaches would say they do the same things, and probably they don't. But so far, so good for Matt Painter in terms of doing things his way and succeeding. I think it's endurable for the short term. We'll see where kind of things go in the future. If this becomes a situation where everybody's rolling out G Leaguers and finding ways to get 23 and 24-year-olds into school and importing new international pro teams every single year like Illinois is, I don't know. We'll have to see, but for the time being, I think Purdue's in a pretty good spot doing it its way.
Okay, Brian, lastly, tonight, obviously, Purdue taking on Kent State. That is kind of the last of things before you get into and we turn the calendar into the Big Ten play. Anything in particular you're looking for there? Is there anything that you have seen or not seen so far out of this group that you say, yeah, I still want to see that fine-tuned, or are they really realistically in pretty good shape and we know who they are?
Yeah, consistency. I think the way that Purdue has defended since the second half of the Iowa State game, which was kind of an abomination, the way Purdue's defended, the effort they've put in to being good defensively, the connectedness they've played with defensively, the tone Braden Smith especially has set from a defensive standpoint has been a game changer for them. And between that, if they maintain it all year, and the rebounding piece of it, I think you're pretty well suited to win on the road. And you're obviously going to have to win a lot of road games to win the Big Ten. And I think Purdue's got a huge advantage in the Big Ten race, given that Michigan, Michigan State, and Illinois all come to Mackey Arena only. But that's only an advantage for Purdue if they, don't take care of business at Wisconsin, if they don't win at Indiana, which they should, but we've said that a lot in recent years, and it's not always happened. Nebraska all of a sudden looks like a really tough road game. So Purdue's got to beat the people on the road that it should beat. And if it does, then all of a sudden you're sitting here with huge advantages with Michigan, Michigan State, and Illinois all being one-offs, all in Mackey Arena. And if you can protect your home court and get at least 2 of those 3 games, if not all 3, you're going to win the Big Ten.
Brian, you ever had an IQ test? You ever taken an IQ test?
I haven't. I'd be afraid of the results.
146. That's what I'm saying for you. 146. Good? I can tell in your writing, when I read your stuff, I think to myself, this guy, genius level, and is able to put this stuff in a place where someone like me in the vat of mediocrity can comprehend it, which is in itself a gift, right? So that might be 148. I'll give you 2 more points for that gift.
Thank you for not telling your listeners that I paid you to say that.
No, you didn't. You didn't. I'm telling you. But you can Venmo me if you'd like. Or just get me a Java House when I'm up in Lafayette next. I always love that as well. Brian, I appreciate the time as always, man.
House.
What's that?
No problem, Jake. I will happily get you a Java House anytime you're in town.
Appreciate it. Happy New Year to you, man.
You as well, Jake. Thanks for having me, man.
Brian Newbert, goldenblack.com. J&V is in the building. I saw him skulking around. We will find out what he's got cooking. We'll do it as part of the crossover brought to you by Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com is the website. 317-353-2141. They are the very best, over 100 years, an official Heil heating and cooling dealer here in central Indiana. We'll find out what John's got cooking for the big program and hand it off to him next.
Heat and cool with nearly geothermal efficiency in places you can't fit ductwork with Mitsubishi electric ductless mini splits.
Just go to AbsoluteComfort.org. That's AbsoluteComfort.org.
It's JMV for Indiana's best. My friend Eric Wilson and Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st and State Road 37. It's in Fishers. Check it out right now. The GMC Acadia, good for you, the family, and the friends of the family. Inventory. Car buying experience, service after the sale, the absolute best. It's one-stop shopping. Ask for Eric Wilson and head to Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st and State Road 37 in Fishers.
Bowling, 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 keep them balls a-rolling. Bowling, 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 Royal Pin.
Ring in the new year at Royal Pin Entertainment's annual New Year's Eve celebration. Countdown to 2026 with a celebration the whole family will love. Get to Royal Pin from 9 p.m. to midnight on December 31st for 3 hours of fun and family-friendly excitement, including cosmic bowling, a complimentary appetizer board, a midnight toast, and a whole lot more. Each lane fits up to 6 guests. There's plenty of celebration to go around. So bring your friends, bring your family, and roll into 2026 with a bang. Spots fill up fast. Reserve your lane now at royalpin.com.
Set them up, knock them down, send them flying, spinning round.
Royal Pin Entertainment, where fun rolls into the new year.
Royal Pin, bowling, bowling, Royal Pin, bowling.
JMV here for my friends at Premier Weight Loss. You know what's funny? When I was in my teens, body exploration meant something completely different than it does now that I'm 56 years of age. I can say now that it means, where am I on my weight loss journey? Down nearly 80 pounds. How about my body fat percentage? Down from 35% to 13%. Now it's time to add muscle mass, or lean mass, if you will, with the tone stimulation machine that they have at Premier Weight Loss. You can do the same weight loss journey and then tone up with Thomas and Samantha and the gang at Premier Weight Loss. It will work for you. That's PWLND.com. Mention my name. For the first 10 days in the month of December, you could win 2 lower-level tickets to see the Niners and the Colts. If you want to lose the weight, if you want to feel better, it's PWLND.com. You can do it. Tell them JMV sent you. PWLND.com today.
Hey, this is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking with hypnosis. Hypnosis eliminated my desire for soda and fast food, made me want to exercise, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. My energy level exploded. I went to another session to deal with some other problem foods, and I lost another 10 pounds. In fact, I brought my husband, and he lost weight, and his cholesterol and blood pressure improved. My friend lost 20 pounds her first 2 months.
What are you waiting for? Lose the weight or stop smoking with Hypnosis, guaranteed only $59.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings, late-night eating binges, boredom eating, stress eating. Hypnosis Thursday, January 29th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Noblesville. Weight loss hypnosis 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking hypnosis 8 p.m. And Saturday, January 31st at the Holiday Inn Indianapolis Airport. Weight loss hypnosis 11 a.m. Stop smoking hypnosis 2 p.m. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
We're definitely going to be late to the concert. I feel like we should be there by now.
I'm just taking a little detour. I gotta fill up my gas tank, and I know this place a couple towns over where the gas is cheaper.
Are you serious? We're gonna be late for the concert because you're driving out of the way for cheaper gas? Just use Upside.
What's Upside?
Upside is the free cashback app that gets you real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait, I can get cash back just for buying the gas I need anyway?
Yes, I use it all the time, and I've made around $200. Now pull over so you can download the Upside app before we miss the concert.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code TRAFFIC25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank, PayPal, or as a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code TRAFFIC25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code TRAFFIC25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's code TRAFFIC25.
Do you own a small business? You need to hear this. A seismic shift is coming. It's time to get super sure. Not kind of sure, not pretty sure, but super sure. Coming soon.
Hey, JMV, join me coming up Monday at 3. Jaguars Colts recapping what you need to know. Coming up, that's Monday at 3. Don't miss it.
It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's a great tune. Just a great tune. And I suddenly can't hear it anymore, Eddie. Hopefully my voice is still going out over the radio. J&B will be there we go. It's back. You know, I used to be able to sing along to this whole thing back in my younger days, Eddie. I won't do it for you now.
Younger days? You act like you're old.
I know reality. I'd like to think I'm youthful, though, right?
You're pretty spry.
I'm pretty spry. I'd like to think that here's the thing. I look young because Shannon looks young, right? She is young, but I'm just saying. So that keeps me spry.
Jake, I don't think you need to correct yourself because she doesn't listen to this show.
That is correct. Well,
she starts listening in 8 minutes.
No, she's starting to listen now because JMV's walking in for the crossover. So I can assure you that is in fact the case. By the way, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Inside IU Football Special Edition as Indiana gets set for the Rose Bowl. We mentioned that. Now, tonight the Pacers are on the road. Is that right, Eddie?
Yeah, they're in Houston.
They are in Houston where the Colts will be on Sunday. This game for the Pacers, I guess, more meaningful because even though they're in the similar case, at least for the Pacers, Rick Carlisle still going for win number 1,000. J&B has arrived.
They stink.
Which one?
The Pacers.
Yeah, they're not very good.
Yeah.
And it's like one step forward, 2 steps back. Each time you think a guy's back, you know, I mean, TJ McConnell now with quote-unquote hamstring soreness, Aaron Nesmith.
I don't like to hear when Pascal Siakam feels compelled to talk about what the difference is between taking things seriously and really being objective and losing or just accepting losing. Like, I thought this group wouldn't have to have that explained to them by a veteran or anybody, and the fact he had to do that last week was a little off-putting, I thought. Not for him, but the fact that he had to do it.
But I and I'm not saying this as some sort of an apologist. The thing that I have to keep reminding myself is that so many of the players on the floor are guys that have no part of their future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you forget Toppin's the guy you completely forget about, but I mean that he's out. Toppin, Neesmith, and then obviously Halliburton's the big one. But it's just such. I think the thing that's frustrating, John, is guys like Jarris Walker and Ben Matherin who have such an opportunity there, and they just have not taken advantage.
Yeah, the Matherin thing, that's going to come to a head pretty soon, it seems.
For sure. But you wonder if he's played not he himself, but is his value such that what are you going to get for him at this point? I mean, you're going to get something, but not maybe to the level that you thought.
I think he's a guy that they don't have. But is he ever going to be the guy that Rick Carlisle is willing to accept? If Halliburton is back, is that attitude different? If guys are back and they're winning, is this attitude coming with the fact that they're arguably the worst team in the NBA right now?
Right. No, I know. But I don't know. I thought Matherin, from a scoring standpoint, would start to show more versatility in scoring that would make him a wider spread product that other teams would have an interest in.
I think that the Pacers can view it like they want to try. I think people want Matherin to be something that he's not going to be. I think he is going to be a dictative type of scoring threat.
I agree.
And all this other stuff people are asking for are going to be window dressing, I think. And he could fall in line with guys around him, but he's not going to be that type of single player. But he's going to be a go-get-it guy when you have guys that are threats on the floor with him.
Right. But again, I think it's going to be elsewhere. That's my gut. But, we'll see.
Man, that would stink, wouldn't it? That would. And then seeing what they're going to end up getting as one of the top picks in the NBA is pretty interesting too. But no, it is a bummer. And Jake, once we get past IU football, once we get into college basketball, you better ride on the Boilermakers.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's going to be few and far between things going on around here, especially if the Colts, for whatever reason, decide to run this thing back.
For whatever reason, but I have a feeling that that's what you're going to be talking about over the next couple hours, right?
Oh, my goodness. Well, you can't go out losing 7 straight. I mean, not everything is excusable, right? The whole resume is not excusable. And come on.
All right, so J&V's up next with explanation, breakdown, where they go from here, where he thinks they should go from here. Although there is still a game left. We'll let him do it next, and we will be back with you at noon tomorrow.